Welcome to Austin, Texas, where the boots shine, the brisket sizzles, and while the racing, it's about to get hotter than a rhinestone cowgirl underneath the spotlight. I'm Amanda Busick, and it's time for rounds 3 and 4 of the GT World Challenge, powered by AWS Series, and it goes down at the legendary Circuit of the Americas. This track is no Sunday drive. With 20 turns, 133 feet of elevation, and a front straight steeper than a rodeo ramp, COTA's the kind of circuit that separates the cowboys from the cattle. If you want to ride tall in the saddle this season, you've got to wrangle every inch of pavement. This isn't our first rodeo. RS1 is back in the saddle. Turner Motorsports is looking to lasso yet another title. And don't sleep on those dark horses of Regulator Racing and AF Corsa. In a state where everything's bigger, including the dreams, what a perfect spot for these GT3 beasts to run wild. It is where horsepower meets honky-tonk and where precision meets pedal to the metal. So saddle up, race fans. The stars are big, the cars are loud, and the only thing quicker than a Texas two-step is what's about to dazzle off of this grid. This is GT World Challenge America, and it's about to go down Lone Star style. The GT World Challenge is lighting up the global motorsports stage, and with SRO celebrating its 30th anniversary in 2025, the series is set to be bigger and better than ever. This truly international championship spans 4 continents: Asia, Australia, Europe, and right here in North America. The season kicked off in spectacular fashion at Mount Panorama for the Bathurst 12-hour, a cornerstone of the Intercontinental GT Challenge that connects the global calendar. In March, GT World Challenge America launched its campaign at Sonoma Raceway, nestled just outside of San Francisco. It delivered a thrilling opener with the Mercedes-AMG GT3 claiming victory in Race 1 and the Random Vandals BMW M4 securing the top step in Race 2. Down under, the Australian leg got underway with an incredible array of motorsport GT3 machinery doing battle at the iconic Phillip Island circuit near Melbourne. Meanwhile, Europe witnessed an epic showdown with an astonishing 59-car grid battling it out in a 6-hour endurance classic at Circuit Paul Ricard in France. Across the globe in Malaysia, Sepang International Circuit hosted the first 2 rounds of the Asian Championship, bringing even more high-stakes action to the 2025 season. And now, all eyes turn to the Circuit of the Americas, a track designed with both drivers and fans in mind, combining the best elements of circuits around the world. Who better to guide us through this premier facility than our very own Calvin Fish?
Well, it's so cool to be back here at Circuit of the Americas. This has been home to a US Grand Prix since 2012. It's an amazing facility here. You got the enormity of the stage itself. You got the Austin backdrop right behind us. And I'm here with Scott Dollarhite, driver of the number 6 Dollarhite Racing Ford Mustang GT3. Turn 1, we've got this elevation change about 130 odd feet around this circuit. Most of it occurs, Scott, between that start-finish stripe and right up here at turn 1. How do you approach this corner?
Oh man, there's actually a few ways to approach this. I would say the most significant thing about turn 1 is the elevation, how deep you can get on the brakes, which makes an incredible passing zone. And there's several different lines you can take. Like if you're on a qualifying line, you'd want to go real wide and get as much speed as you can going down the apex into turn 2. But if you're in a race, obviously you do that, you leave the door wide open for passes, right? So you'll see at the start of the races, people will protect the inside a little bit more, but that also gives cars on the outside a chance to do an over and under. So there's really a lot of action that can happen here in turn 1.
Well, since we left turn 1, we've had a quick Texas shower. It's absolutely doused this race circuit. Now it's dried out a little bit. We can talk us through this, very important. This is turn 12. Now we come out of turn 11, really important corner there. Get the traction, get the power down, get that acceleration run. GT3 cars in about 160 plus down here. Then it's all about braking for this overtaking opportunity into turn 12. Talk us through the bumps and everything here.
Yeah, it is moving through here. And under braking zone, the track's rippled a little bit just because so many cars have driven over it over time. It causes the asphalt to shift, right? So coming into a pass here, if you're out on the inside, you might have a little bit smoother pavement, right? Which is going to make it a little bit more comfortable to make a pass through here. But really the key to this corner is all about corner exit.
But if someone gets down to the inside and you're on the outside, do you use that to your advantage and not open up your hands a little bit, or what do you try and do?
You want to utilize as much track as you possibly can, staying within the lines, of course. Yeah.
One of the really cool things about Circuit of the Americas is that it's really mimicked a lot of the great corners around Grand Prix circuits on the global stage. You got the Senna S's from Interlagos, you got corners from the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, and this is turns 16, 17, 18, which mimics turn 8 at the Turkish Grand Prix. So, talk us through this one. It's a really tricky corner, a lot going on here.
It is, yeah. The great part about Circuit of the Americas, there's so many reference points that you can use, right? So coming out of turn 15, there's 2 pillars on that bridge that you can actually start to line up with before you enter in to the carousel here, and it really gets your entrance angle right at the apex. So you'll come in, just a little lift on the throttle, carrying a little bit of maintenance throttle here, and really the trick for this corner is how early you can get back to full throttle and hold your arc through the backside of the corner. It really sets up a nice passing zone for turn 19 and 20.
Seems like the elevation change is helping you as you're ramping up speed, but then it takes away from you as you head out of 18 down towards 19.
It does. It's kind of timing that little rotation part of whenever it starts to go downhill, right where you can nail the throttle. It's one of my favorite corners on the track.
Yeah, it's beautiful rhythm here. 2 more corners and the lap is finished. What a circuit.
Right. I know, it's amazing.
Thanks, Scott. All the best this weekend, mate.
My pleasure.
Cheers.
Austin, Texas, the spiritual home of SRO America. So many of the staff based right here, and now rolling out the red carpet for a GT World Challenge America powered by AWS. Time to go for the second of 2 races here this weekend under cloudy skies in the Lone Star State, but it is the second leg of a doubleheader weekend here in Texas. It all got started yesterday with race 1, so time now to take a look back on highlights from the first race of the weekend. All started with Philip Ellis on pole for Regulator Racing, as usual, doing their inverse driver start strategy. Moments into the race, some chaos erupting, a couple of cars going for a spin, also issues in the early going for Flying Lizard Motorsports. Elias Sabo came to the pit lane and early out, and he will not take part in race 2 today. Philip Ellis on the restart, able to build a gap that was crucial for their strategy. Caught some traffic though as he ran long, and we got into the pit stop sequence, and as a consequence lost a little bit of time. That put Jeff Burton in a more difficult position when he did ultimately rejoin the race after the pit stops. Once we got through those pit stops, then it was a reshuffled deck. Jan Halen able to carve his way to the lead of the pro class inside of Connor DeFilippi, but that would not last long. More on that in a moment. In the meantime, DXDT got to the front in Pro-Am as Jeff Burton started to slip back down the order. Connor DeFilippi starting to fight back. Meanwhile, Tom Sargent knifing his way forward. A very good day for the GMG Racing Porsche team a day ago. Jay Schreidman, solid run in round 2 at AM Class victory. It all got started with Oz Negri in that car. At the front of the field, though, it was all about a time penalty that came down late due to a pit stop infringement. On the road, JMF Motorsports, the first to cross the line, but it was Random Vandals celebrating the victory, courtesy of the penalty. Down to the grid now to Amanda Busick and Calvin Fish.
Hey Ryan, and welcome to an absolutely packed grid here at the Circuit of the Americas. I've stolen your booth mate for just a little bit, our very own Calvin Fish, but look at it down here, Ryan. It's almost bittersweet that this will be the last race of the weekend. That's been such a wonderful weekend here at COTA. But Calvin, we just saw race 1 highlights. With the unpredictable nature of this place, how important is execution when it comes to pit stops and what we're seeing on track?
Well, the competition this year is so tight, you have to be absolutely perfect. We saw that yesterday. JMF, brilliant debut to GT3 racing with the big win at Sonoma. They had the track position yesterday, they had the lead. However, they were just under a couple of tenths too shy on that minimum pit stop time. That cost them a 1.7 penalty at the end of the day, and that cost them the win. So today, you know, everyone's going to be trying buttoned up on that, but it can cost you a win here at Circuit of the Americas. Round 4 about to start. Let's have a chat with some of the boys here up on the wall getting ready to go. The Turner Motorsports Group. Got Will Turner here, Justin Rothberg. Will, where are the tacos, mate?
Oh, they're everywhere.
Robbie, great run yesterday, another podium, 3 on the bounce for you guys, including the win at Sonoma. Great pole position, mate. It was tight with you and Tom Sargent. What do you need to do today? How important is this start? Bit of a headwind up into turn 1.
Yeah, first of all, get a good jump off the line, and then I think for us, manage our long run, try to keep the tires under it for a long stint. So we've had a great car all weekend. Turner guys and girls have been working hard to give us that good car, so we'll try to convert.
All right, mate, best of luck. Let's wander down here a little bit, see if we can have a chat with the guy who's going to start alongside with you. We're here with Tom Sargent. Tom, let's grab you quite quick. How much body fat is that, mate? About 6%? Make me feel...
lean and mean.
lean and mean. Certainly as lean and mean in qualifying, just 0.08 of a second separated you from Robbie. That's got to be frustrating, but what are your thoughts going into the race? And also, Kyle had a brilliant run this morning, won yesterday in GT America, second this morning to Justin Rothberg. Is it going to be cut and paste this afternoon for the win?
Let's hope. Qualifying was tough for sure, missing out by such a small margin over a big lap. But we're pretty confident in our race car, which is a good start. So we're in a good position to start with, outside at turn 1. There's plenty of room there, so we'll see what we can do there. But ultimately, if I can give the car to Kyle in a good position, that's my job done. So as you mentioned, he had a really good GT America race, so let's see if he can do the same again.
Talk about his progress, mate. I mean, it's been sensational. I mean, you had the big win last year at VIR, so it's familiar territory for you. But his performance this year, it seems like he's ramped up to a new level.
Oh, for sure. The performance he did at Sonoma round 1, and then especially this weekend was crazy. That last race in GT America was absolutely awesome, and then obviously cleaned up in the race 1 as well. So fingers crossed he can do the same thing again. And but I got full confidence in him.
All right, mate, we look forward to that battle up into turn 1. Let's send it down to Amanda, see who she's found on the grid.
Well, I have to say I'm a little upset with Tom Sargent because he promised me the cowboy boots and cowboy hat that we saw here last year. But as we watched the race 1 highlights, I'm with that Mercedes that just missed it by just a tad. And Mikhail, was there anything left in that Mercedes that you could have seen in that one?
Not really. Yeah, I mean, we had good qualifying. Mikhail had a good start yesterday. Lost the race because of a bit timing issue, but yeah, we did a good job. Today we will try to win the race. I think we have to for the championship because it's quite close in the pro class. I think we have a good car, and yeah, Mikhail is ready to finish the race.
Well, I see Mackay Stevens over here, and you think of the Random Vandals BMW that's going to start all the way in the rear, but you know what Kitten Cook is capable of. How does victory find you?
Oh boy, tough question. I think with a healthy dosage of respect. As Mick alluded to, I mean, the organization that we have behind us is incredible. The fact that we were on the platform of the Mercedes-AMG, sensational. We'll see what comes about. We'll pay our respects, and if it's meant to be, then we'll see you there.
All right, well, good luck to the Mercedes here today. Ryan, I was talking to John Farrow at the end of the day. He said everything is in perspective. We are growing out this operation and have seen more podiums this season than we have in last year combined.
Yeah, it does put things into perspective. Thank you very much, Amanda. Look, that team, just by a fraction of a second, a little bit too fast on their pit stop yesterday, fell afoul of the regulations, and it cost them a race win. But they'll learn the lesson. They'll try and bounce back, already establishing themselves up against some really top GT3 teams. Impressive stuff. Really impressive as well from DXDT Racing. Matt Bell giving us a little wave there. He picked up a win yesterday. It was the first win for Matt. I think that's Chandler Hull, former driver in the series, that's hanging out there and having a word. Time to go down to the grid for pre-race festivities here at Circuit of the Americas ahead of race number 2 of the weekend.
Race fans, please rise as you are able, as here to honor America, UT student and award-winning singer-songwriter with a new album out yesterday entitled Truth Be Told. Please welcome Brooke Michelle.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes in bright stars through the perilous fight star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free in the home of the brave.
Flyover of Texas DPS 100 and 110 over Circuit of the Americas. Well, just moments away now from getting started for the second of two races here this afternoon. Drivers to their cars, that's the call. And the starting drivers will get suited up and ready to go to kick off this 90-minute race. That's Varun Choksi. Tough day yesterday for this car. Had some intermittent issues. Those have been dealt with, and now Varun and Bill Auberlin looking to bounce back. Showed good pace, just haven't quite been able to put together the full race weekend, looking for their first win at the GT3 level. GT America GT4 champion a year ago, Isaac Sherman, sharing the CRP Racing Mercedes with Jason Daskalos. He's getting ready to go. Been something of a revelation in his step up to GT3 machinery. Car had strife on the opening lap yesterday. They'll try to avoid that here in the second go-round. It is hot. It is relatively humid, although that humidity has come down substantially throughout the course of the day today. 38 degrees Celsius, that's roughly 82 degrees on the Fahrenheit scale. A warm afternoon, but certainly conditions conducive to good racing as we saw yesterday. Nearly identical conditions from one day to the next. Calvin, you were just there on the grid, got a chance to take in the pomp and circumstance and also chat with some of the drivers. What stood out to you as we get ready to go?
I think just great energy, big crowd here this weekend, trying to put on another fantastic show to finish off what's been a very busy schedule of races here. But I think everyone's kind of getting into their groove now, Ryan. I mean, we went through the doubleheader at Sonoma. I think teams have got to tighten up a little bit on their pit stops yesterday because that cost the team the win ultimately, as I mentioned. So I think if everyone can execute, that is going to make a huge difference. Any bobble, I think the competition level is so high now, that may cost you a podium or a win potentially.
Well, we saw it yesterday, didn't we, with the JMF car. One tiny mistake, and we're not talking about much, just slightly under the minimum pit stop time, led to a time penalty. Consequently, they go from winning on the road to second, and we know how difficult these races are to win.
Absolutely, and I think what's really cool, we talked about it with the boys down there on the front row, is that you got Kyle Washington and Justin Rothberg going to pull the second stint here today. They took the start yesterday and reverse roll here today, and they had a great battle here this morning, so we'll see if they can resume that this afternoon.
Let's hear from more of the protagonists down on the grid with Amanda now.
Yeah, and Ryan, we covered one half of that infraction with JMF for their short pit stop, but the winners ultimately were the Random Vandals BMW, starting from the rear from that ride height infraction. And Kenton, you kicked off this venture yesterday, and you were able to take great advantage at the start and through turn one. Now Connor's up against a lot of pros that are up ahead. What's the recommendation?
Just drive around as many of them as you can. So. The start, obviously, there's a lot of opportunity to make up some positions just with everyone stacked up a bit. But as things get rolling here, it's going to get a little bit trickier with all the pros starting. But, you know, it's a long race. Hopefully we can just keep on grooving and getting our way through the field and hand it over to me. And hopefully I can go finish the job here. So, but we've got a good car, and Connor's going to give me a good one here. And the BMW and Random Vandals have given us a vehicle to go fight with, so hopefully we go do that.
One of the themes we've been talking about here today is execution, especially on those pit stops, and you guys saw how important that was in Sonoma. Yesterday, you guys had hands in the air of how successful it was. What is the pressure in those stop situations?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a pressure, you know, for everyone involved when it's something that they don't have a lot of experience doing. They're getting to grips with it, and there's you know, you've got to get through that hurdle of making sure you don't let the pressure get to you. And they did a heck of a job doing that yesterday, and I've got all the confidence in the world that they'll be able to do that today. And
We've got some good guidance on the team to help make sure they're in the right mindset, and yeah, I've got good confidence that we're going to be able to execute on the pit stops today, knock on some wood, and yeah, we'll have some fun.
All right, guys, well, driver one are in these race cars, and Ryan, it's cloud cover down here, a little windy, but a beautiful day at the Circuit of Americas for race number 2 here in the state of Texas.
Yeah, ready to get going. You heard Kenton Cook talk a little bit about this start, maybe downplayed it because he went from 18th to 9th in 1 lap yesterday. Less than 1 lap, actually, because we went full course yellow pretty promptly. That set the table for their last to first run that ultimately ended up in victory lane.
It really did. He kept his nose clean. He took advantage of that little chaos that we had up there in turn 1 that took out about 4 cars. So it was the ideal scenario for them. Then he went on the attack, and ultimately they got the win with that little penalty for JMF. So it's going to be a lot tougher for Connor doing it from the back today. He got all the pros, well, not all of the pros, a couple of teams are off strategy a little bit, but most of the pros are starting. So that forward progress is going to be a little bit laborious, a lot tougher for Connor, but he's just got to keep his head in the game and see if they can go down, chase down one of these other BMWs for the overall win.
That's going to be the challenge. Turner put together a really fast hot run for qualifying. It was tight, though, as you talked to Tom Sargent about just 0.08 of a second over a long lap here at Circuit of the Americas, separated first from second. But that's a single lap. Now what do we do over a full 90-minute race? You saw yesterday a number of cars that show the kind of pace necessary to go and fight for podiums.
Yeah, I think that's the great thing about this championship. We've got 4 pro cars, but they're so tight in terms of how level they are in terms of performance. So any one of those 4 cars can win, including both of the Random Vandals machines. You got JMF, and obviously there's a lot of great cars out there, including the RS1 machine. Alex Sedgwick was sensational, the young Brit at Sonoma. Almost grabbed the victory there. Kenton made a brilliant move at the end to take that victory away from him. Spoke to his teammate Jan Hanley. He said, you know, we really feel good about yesterday's podium. He said, yeah, we didn't win, but he said, I think we executed to the highest level. So some days you're going to go to a racetrack where your brand, your platform is not ideal. And in a championship season, you still need to maximize. It might be for a win, it might be for a second, it might just be for a podium or less, but you have to maximize each weekend to come out on top at the end of a long championship season.
Halen will start 7th overall today, but the second fastest of the pro class cars. They're sprinkled all throughout this field. Grenier on the pro class pole in 3rd, then Halen 7th overall, Choxy in 10th, and as we chronicled, Connor DeFilippi needs to come from the back today. The job gets slightly easier because we're down a car, unfortunately. No Elias Sabo, no Flying Lizard. Business commitments that popped up that Elias just couldn't ignore. That's got to be a great frustration for him because he has been fast, as has Andy Lee in that car throughout the course of the weekend so far.
Yeah, they were really quick. They tested here and were pretty buoyant about their opportunity this weekend. Were fast yesterday, had a technical glitch. So Elias is not here today. That's a shame because I think he had a shot at GT America win this morning. It was a great battle between Washington and Rothberg for that victory, but I think he could have been right in the mix as well. He had actually sat on pole because he had the fastest lap yesterday. So shame that they're not on the grid, but they're really coming to terms with that BMW that they switched to at the middle part of 2024. But there's so many great stories up and down this grid right now.
Happy to report that the Dollarhide Racing Mustang repaired after the incident at the start of the race yesterday. That's good news. It'll be Scott Dollarhide, who we heard from on the track preview, set to roll off. And look, if anybody knows their way around this track in this field, it's Scott Dollarhide.
Yeah, he's got thousands of laps around here. He lives literally 45 minutes away from the race circuit. He does a lot of coaching here, a lot of days with BMW. So he certainly knows the track well. It's early days for that group, getting to grips with that new Ford Mustang. Great to see another manufacturer on the grid, of course. So it's exciting times for 2025.
Engines about to fire up down in the pit lane. And very soon we'll see this field of 17 roll out to start the formation lap. You can see that door on the Mustang swinging open and closed, just trying to fan a little bit of air into the cockpit. It is a hot and humid Texas afternoon. There is always the chance of a rogue shower coming through the area. We saw it briefly yesterday. It didn't really make a huge difference, but those have popped up from time to time over the last 2 or 3 days, and that could really throw a spanner into the works.
It really can. I mean, fortunately, there's pretty decent track temperatures, so it doesn't have an immediate effect. But Jan Halen, when I was chatting to him, he said, did you see that shower yesterday? I said, yeah. He said, got my attention immediately. So everyone's going to be on their toes. I wouldn't expect enough rain to see a switch to wet weather tires, but you never know in Texas. Just think about your run around the track.
I don't need the reminder. My shoes are still damp. Sudden rainstorm came through, and the entire track was soaked, and me with it. But that was on Thursday. Now here we are on Sunday, and it's time to get down to business with Robbie Foley leading the field out of the pit lane. Always hairy moments here when everything fires up. You just hope everything starts the way it's supposed to. You hope you don't have any technical glitches trying to leave the pits, and it looks like the field has largely been able to make its way out onto the track as we get ready to go. Pole sitters in the respective classes: JMF Motorsports, Turner Motorsport, and Dollarhide Racing. Those are actually the drivers that will do the second stint, not the drivers that qualified these cars, but the teams are correct, certainly, and exciting to see what they can do. It'll be a Pro-Am car on the overall pole, as mentioned, with Robbie Foley getting the job done and doing it with a little extra ballast as well, as his teammate is running as a derogated bronze, and with that comes a little bit of a weight penalty, but he put it behind him and still put the Turner car on the Rova pole position. Tom Sargent alongside will start second. Your pole sitter in pro is Mikhail Grenier, starting inside of row 2. Next to him will be Matt Bell. And Michael Cooper, great qualifying effort for the Racer's Edge team. Archangel Motorsports' Aaron Tielitz will start alongside. In the 4th row of the grid, a couple of Porsches, Jan Halen and Kyle Marcelli, making just his second start of the season. Back to the 5th row, Darren Turner and Varun Choksi set to go from 9th and 10th. 11th to Isaac Sherman, 12th to Aaron Povaledo. Jeff Burton will start in the 7th row. Keep an eye on that car, on that alternate strategy. In the second stint, it comes to life. Scott Dollarhide will start as the M-Class pole sitter in 14th. Marcelo Hahn and Jay Schreiben, the 2 AF Corsa Ferrari, starting in row 8. And because of that technical infraction in qualifying, a loss of all laps set means that for the second straight day, the 99 Random Vandals BMW will start tail end Charlie, 17th here today. It's a long way to go for Connor DeFilippi to get to the front, but they did it a day ago. Can they do it in day 2? We're about to find out.
Yeah, I think they got to be careful, though. They have the championship lead. You got to get to that 50% mark to score points here today, so that would be a big blow if they get too aggressive and get taken out early. So I think you've got to tiptoe his way through the field. Ideally, they need a yellow. They need to get through some of these Pro-Am cars and then get a compression of the field. So I feel that he's going to be, if there's opportunity, like his teammates said at the start, then take it. But otherwise, just settle in and see what the race brings to you.
Patience hard to come by, even in a relatively long race like this. 90 minutes, bifurcated by one pit stop right in the middle. Driver change, tire changes, and fuel, all during the pit stop. It is full service in GT World Challenge America. Field starting to come into alignment here at Circuit of the Americas. Lights off on the safety car. We anticipate the green flag as they come around this time. Porsche and BMW on the front row, Mercedes and Corvette in row 2, Aston and McLaren in row 3. Gotta love the diversity.
Big headwind as well. These cars are going to stop in a heartbeat when they hit that middle pedal up into turn 1.
It's a BMW on pole position. Adam McGregor, BMW Motorsport and Customer Racing Manager for North America, is there to welcome the Turner BMW with the green flag. Field in good alignment, waiting to enter the VP acceleration zone. Robbie Foley from pole position accelerates away. He'll take that lead. The battle is on for second, third, and fourth. 3 wide, 5 wide further back as they fan out to the top of the hill.
Mikhail Grenier gets into the side of the GMG Porsche, runs Tom Sargent wide. He's dropped one position, maybe more. Here comes Michael Cooper in the Aston Martin, the black and gold machine.
Very opportunistic. Cooper is through, slots in just ahead of the Porsche. So Tom Sargent from the front row has been dropped down 2 positions, and Cooper's not done yet. He's got crosshairs now, drawing a bead on Mikhail Grenier.
Yeah, Cooper's absolutely flying here. Great start for him as we go back a little bit more middle of the pack. There you can see the 2 Random Vandals machine, the green and white cars. The first car at Choksi, and Connor DeFilippi has got around a handful of cars on the opening few corners.
That's exactly what Connor needed to do. It's what Kenton Cook did yesterday. Made quick work of some of the out-of-class traffic, but it gets tougher here as Darren Turner goes side by side with Varun Choksi. Aston on BMW there in the mid-pack. Up front, Michael Cooper looking a bit vulnerable. Tom Sargent not thrilled about getting dropped a couple of spots. He's trying to counterattack now and works his way to the outside of the Aston down this back straightaway.
Yeah, he's going to be disappointed with those first couple of corners, going to try and make amends early. Cooper's going to push him really tight there down to the apex.
For the second straight day, a drive-through penalty issued for a start procedure violation. Scott Dolahide deemed to leave his column before the start line. That's caught out several drivers in multiple series over the course of this weekend. And that takes the AM class leader temporarily, at least, out of the fight.
We saw Varun Choksi lose that position to Darren Turner down in 11, but I think he repaid it and got back around him, probably into the brake zone for turn 12, I would imagine. He got that position back.
Schwest off the pace. It looked like that Corvette might have, actually that's Aaron Povoleto, excuse me, and the Schwest Povoleto Racing Corvette might have had some damage. It certainly was not at full song, but we got a glimpse of it just a moment ago. That's heartbreaking. They've been really fast this weekend, but the telltale smoke lets you know there is something wrong with the number 50 machine.
Determine if that's coming from the right bank of the exhaust or a tire. Up this massive incline, 11% gradient change, up into turn 1. Darren Turner now trying to fend off the second of the two Random Vandals machine. That's Connor DeFilippi working him over.
Pretty good job by Connor, starting 17th up to 11th.
Spoke to Ian James, who's the team principal there at Harder Racing, Darren Turner's car that we're looking at in the middle of the screen. The Aston Martin right there. I said, you made a big aero change for yesterday. Did that balance the car out? He said, no, just made it loose as well as understeer through the corners. We've gone back with that setting for today.
It's the worst of both worlds, loose and tight, all at the same time, just in different sections of the corner, presumably. Isaac Sherman, saw him bouncing over some curbs a moment ago, kicking up dust. That is the black and maroon Mercedes AMG that has crept up into this fight here as well. There's the leader, Robbie Foley. Then it's Mikael Grenier, leader in Pro. Sargent did get back around Cooper. And then Matt Bell in the Corvette from DXDT Racing that won in Pro-Am yesterday.
Been a great season so far for the defending class champions. Robbie Foley and Justin Rothberg had a win and a podium. Third place finish at Sonoma, followed that up with the runner-up finish yesterday and extended their points lead. The 91 car did not have a great day, finished down in P6. This is Connor DeFilippi. Oh, both Random Vandals cars in trouble here. Surely they didn't get into each other.
This team orchestrated the teamwork really well yesterday. Oh, that is right front suspension damage, no question.
Yeah, I wonder if he made a big lunge there down into turn 12 on the Aston and got into his teammate possibly. See a door marker across the number there, so let's have a look here. Yes, he does. He's deep on the brakes. Connor just big commitment there, trying to make the move on the Aston Martin and consequently got into his teammate. What a disaster for Random Vandals.
Oh,
talk about the fact you got to get to 50% to get those points.
True.
And that is the championship leader in trouble.
Now, both cars limping back to the pit lane. Choksi has arrived. DeFilippi still en route. We can get an update now on the Schwest Povoleto Racing car with Amanda.
Yeah, guys, and after this, I'll run down to Random Vandals to see what happened there with those two BMWs coming together. Talking to Rosh West, he was told that there was a locked wheel on that Corvette. The team has elected to take that Corvette back to the garage and hopeful to return to this race.
So I guess it was just dragging that right rear around the racetrack. That was the smoke that we were seeing emanating from that right rear corner.
Ross has been incredibly quick in GT America this weekend. Just got his first podium earlier this morning in that series.
So he's on pit lane now, getting that car serviced and a penalty incident responsibility.
That handed very quickly to Connor DeFilippi. Random Vandals team backing the sister car of Choksi up. Car definitely had damage amidships, but might have got off a little bit
Here we
later.
go, look at this. Aaron Thielitz there on the inside of Jan Halen. He had a great run at Sonoma, Aaron did, and it's a great little team. Look at Halen trying to get back onto the inside for turn 15. You got Kyle Marcelli watching on as well. Lab Motorsports Porsche trying to bounce back from that incident that they had at Sonoma in qualifying for the opening round of the championship.
Very out of character for Kyle to have the off that he did in that qualifying session in Sonoma, and it cost the team dearly. They had to withdraw from the event. The damage couldn't be repaired on site, but the team got the repairs made in time to come here to Circuit of the Americas, and they've been right there on the pace. Still, though, you have to think about it. This is just their second race of the season. Everyone else, it's race number 4.
Yeah, so lots to learn, lots to get into sync with, particularly on those pit stops. But getting back to De Filippi's moment, we kind of forecast that a little bit. You got to be patient. I mean, I know you want to get to the front and fight out with those pro cars, but you have to be thinking big picture of a championship and where that points is going to be paid. Let's see what they're saying on pit lane with a random Vandal squad, Amanda.
Yeah, I hear it might not be favorable for the 99, but they're going to do everything they can to try to repair that so they can at least pick up points here today. Hearing it could be the tie rod, and then for the 51, currently driven by Varun Chotsky, I asked if that BMW was okay. It has left pit lane, and the team said, well, we're about to find out.
And it's a big blow for the team. Now, crucially, that pro class, just the 4 cars, points are paid down to 10th. However, you do have to go 50% of the class winner's race distance in order to be eligible to score points. And so that's why it's a big deal to get that 99 car back out on track and at least logging some laps, because when you only have the 4 cars in the class, even if you have a bad day, as long as you score points, you don't lose that much to the leader. Now, the way you do lose a ton of points is a no score, and that's what they're staring down the barrel of right now.
Yeah, that was the hypothetical coming in here, and it's played out not in a good way for that team. But anyway, they'll try and get the car back out. It doesn't matter whether you do the first 50% or the last 50% of the race, so it's now really a race against time for the mechanics to get that car able to drive again. It's got to be up to speed. The series won't allow it to just limp around the racetrack and become a hazard.
On board now with Tom Sargent, second in Pro-Am, third on the road, just out the windscreen, staring at the back of the JMF Mercedes, Michael Grenier.
Last lap across the line, he laid down the fastest lap of the race, which has just been taken by Aaron Telitz aboard that McLaren. So he's on the charge now.
Significant weekend for folks from Australia and New Zealand. Friday was Anzac Day, Day of Remembrance, commemorating the amphibious landings at Gallipoli in the First World War. And Tom Sargent, of course, Antipodean, so he'll be thinking about that here on this weekend as he races in GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS.
I think he's thinking more about the start right now, and now he lost a couple of positions, to be honest with you. But yeah, he may celebrate on the podium at the end of the day, but he's got a task on his hand right now because he's got Grenier between he and Robbie Foley. He's doing a nice consistent job out front, trying to manage those tires that he talked about when we spoke to him on the grid.
Telitz, as you mentioned, is absolutely flying. This is Archangel Motorsports, which had a really strong day yesterday in the 3-hour Lone Star Enduro for Pirelli GT4 America. Headed up by Mike Johnson. On board now with Jon Halen for RS1, second in the Pro class, with really no pressure from behind. The other 2 cars in the class having already collided with one another.
He wasn't real happy with the balance when I spoke to him here on Friday morning, but the team has worked diligently, just like they did at Sonoma, to get this car in the performance window where they can contest for those podium positions.
Busy section of racetrack right here. It comes at you fast.
It does. This is that long, long carousel kind of triple apexer. Spoke about it during the track preview with Scott Dollarheight, how a lot of these corners are kind of cut and paste from some of the Grand Prix circuits around the globe. Really cool facility, very challenging, lots of elevation change. Lots of resurfacing has been done. It's typically done on an annual basis here with the heat of Texas, and then the winters alongside that, because Formula One comes here and they want this place as billiard table smooth as you can make it, but already they're seeing a little bit of a ripple effect down into some of the brake zones. It just seems to happen here.
And maybe even more than the F1 guys, the MotoGP
Bikes,
guys,
yeah.
when they come here, they often will talk about those bumps, and understandably so. Amanda reporting, by the way, Aaron Povoledo has returned from behind the wall, and timing and scoring backs that up, shown on an outlap as the pressure starts to mount now on Mikhail Grenier. Tom Sargent has run him down, and now that Porsche is starting to look threatening with 11 minutes gone by.
Yeah, well, if you think that maybe the 32 car and Robbie Foley out front, maybe the two cars to fight for that Pro-Am win, they're really trying to turn their car over in the best possible position time-wise to their teammates. We know they're so equally matched. Kyle Washington, who drives the 32 with Sargent, and Justin Rothberg, who shares the car with Foley.
For the lead in AM, Scott Dahlheit recovering from the drive-through penalty he was handed at the start. He has tracked down Jay Schreibman and taken the Mustang up through past the Ferrari. Ford versus Ferrari here in the AM class this year.
Really cool. Great to see that. We've got the American muscle as well, Ford versus GM. So great to see some of these rivalries returning here in our SRO paddock.
It's already been a big year for Ford, winning in class at the 24 Hours of Daytona back in January, and bigger presences around the world now with programs through the Haupt Racing Team, HRT in Europe. They'll have a presence and had a presence in DTM earlier today. Lots in GT World Challenge Europe, as well as Ford really going global with this new GT3 platform. Relatively new, second year.
Yeah, it really is. It's a great program, a lot of support from Mark Rushbrook at the top, and Jim Farley and everyone else involved with Ford Motorsport these days. They got a great customer racing program and the services behind it.
Race Vision powered by AWS. Top speeds achieved so far. The BMW holds pride of place. 162 miles per hour from Robbie Foley. Dahlheit, Connor DeFilippi each at 161. Choksey and Cooper 160.
I think we saw about 164 yesterday, so that top speed is achieved on the run down to turn 12. There's a bit of a headwind coming up the hill into turn 1, but it may be affecting the cars getting through 11 to get that launch down the back straight away as well, thinking about it.
Sargent looking as threatening as he has here early on in this opening stint. There's the GMG Racing team watching on. This is always the interesting balance, isn't it, when you have two cars from different classes here? How much do you want to fight this? If you're Mikhail Grenier, you've got your own race to think about, and quite frankly, Tom Sargent's not really involved in it as far as the class positions go.
No, you don't want to get to the point where Sargent starts to get aggressive and you're potentially going to take your car out of the mix. He'll also have the message that both the Random Vandals cars have been in a little bit of chaos already here today, so he's really focused on Jan Halen, who's sitting there in P7 overall and about 7.5 seconds back. Actually about 5 seconds back of him. He's 7.5 seconds back of our leader, Robbie Foley, who stretched that lead a little bit. So that's really the messaging you need to know. You want to put your co-driver in the best possible shape. So he wants to build on this, but we know that Mackay Stevens can get the job done. He's certainly equal to anyone else he's going to go up against here this afternoon. So just keep it where it is right now. It should be fine.
Robbie Foley extending the advantage now. It's up to 2.2 seconds.
Doing a really nice job. Just come on such a long way since he was mentored. But oh, here we go. Sargent to the inside. Must have made a move into turn 20, I think, and nips past Mikhail Grenier.
And what this does for Sargent, two things, I suppose. Now, clear track to try and run down the BMW as Grenier tries to fight back to the inside. But it also puts Grenier in there as a buffer to the pursuing Pro-Am class cars of Cooper and Bell and Thielitz, who is quickly reeling in the front runners.
6 miles on the GMG pit box right there with that move. So now we'll see in clean air, what does Tom Sargent have? We knew that he would nip and tuck Robbie Foley in that quali session yesterday morning. Sensational lap times in the low 202 range. Foley just pipping Sargent by 0.08 of a second. Now he's got clean air. Foley's probably managing things a little bit, whereas Sargent's now going to be in chase mode.
And this is a repeat of what we saw this morning, isn't it, in GT America? The same two cars, now driven by Foley and Sargent, but when the driver change happens, there's a very good chance that a fantastic duel that saw Rothberg and Washington swap the lead a couple of times late in the going. We get to pick that back up and do it again here for a second time.
It'd be fun. Really would. Both these drivers put on quite the show this morning. I think they're anxious to do it once again. Spoke to Justin on the grid, and he said he was pumped. He said that was the best racing I've ever had, so he'd love to embrace another duel.
Sign me up for an encore performance. Cooper, a moment ago, was nipping at the heels of Grenier, but he's now drifted back into the clutches, perhaps, of Matt Bell. Bell taking a peek, and Tewitt's arriving on the scene as well. Back down to the pits and Amanda.
Happy to report that the 99 BMW has left the garage here to head back to the track. I was watching the replacement tie rod go on this BMW with Connor DeFilippi still sitting in the driver's seat, so they will head back to track. I'm with Paul Sparta. Your perspective of what happened there on the track with Connor?
Connor just made a mistake. I mean, he wasn't intending to kind of dive in there, but he just was a little bit hot, and he said, you know, hey guys, I screwed up, this is on me, and thankfully we'll get him out there and hope for a little luck, but man, it's never what you want to see, and thankfully it was pretty light damage.
Can you give us a quick update on the 51?
51 had a little bit of electrical gremlin, especially due to the contact. He's managing it, so we'll stay out there and you know, hope for a little luck. Otherwise, we're just going to collect some points and move on.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate the update.
Yeah, it's a shame for the 51 because they've had a bit of a frustrating start to the year. Yes, they've had performance as Blake McDonald watches the progress of his co-driver here, Matt Bell, but they had clutch issues in qualifying. The 51 car did at Sonoma, so they started at the back of the pack for both of those runs. Had good performance in the race. Then here this weekend, they had a battery issue. That cost them some track time. Had a turbo boost hose issue yesterday in the race, so it's not been an easy path so far, but look at this battle shaping up. Matt Bell, the Brit, trying to hang on to that track position right now, but Aaron Teeles wants it. This is for fourth in Pro-Am.
Matt Bell, the Brit, in an American car. Aaron Tewitt's the American in a British car. Make sense of that, if you will. Coming down the back straightaway here, where the McLaren has been a rocket ship, trying to get in the slipstream there of Bell in the Corvette. Bell late on those brakes, though, covers off the challenge, and that sets Michael Cooper free a little bit. Doesn't have to think so much about playing defense as these two start to tangle behind him. You forecasted it, though. Tewitt has been flying.
Yeah, he had a great run at Sonoma, race 2, I think it was, and super impressive young driver. Connected with the Toyota racing family, of course, with some of his other racing endeavors here in North America, but he has a great relationship with Todd Coleman. He got the okay from Toyota and Lexus to do this campaign this year with the McLaren. Got their feet wet with some GT3 competition over the off-season. Coming at this season ready to roar.
Originally from Rice Lake, Wisconsin.
Bit of an artist.
Yes, that was where I was going next. He was open wheel driver trying to make it up to IndyCar, and along the way, trying to raise money at various times, he turned to painting and sold some paintings to help pay for his racing at different times.
Did you know he can gut a fish in about 22 seconds?
That's the other fun fact on his website. That's right. So from Wisconsin, he worked. His first job, I think, was working at a, I don't know, campground or whatever, a fishery, I guess, where, you know, people go and they catch their fish, and if they want them clean so they can cook them for dinner, they take them to Aaron, who can get the job done in rapid fashion, which is what he's doing behind the wheel of a McLaren right now, getting the job done, going very fast. But
going fishing, Tom Sargent is getting his hooks into Foley here because he took about a second out of that last lap, so sure, Foley had a little bob, a little mistake, but his lap time is a 2:05.4 compared to a 2:04.5 for Sargent, which is just a sniff slower than his fastest lap of the race, which is the fastest lap in class and overall for the day at 2:04.495.
Former Aussie Formula Ford champion, won a Porsche Sprint Challenge Australia Championship the following year in 2022 before coming stateside. Finished runner-up in the 23 Carrera Cup North America Championship for McElrea Racing, and has been part of the Porsche Junior program and factory affiliated subsequent to that. And GT3 racing for the first time actually in a DXDT Racing Mercedes at the Indy 8 Hour at the tail end of 2023, and then this program came together here. Starting last year, finished 5th in the championship, got that win at VIR. And it's been a strong start to 25 as well for Sargent, Washington, and GMG.
Yeah, and it's all about connections. I think McElray Racing are actually sharing a shop with DXDT. And Tom was around the shop, got to know some of the personnel, and he got invited to run in the Indy 8 Hour in 2023. And then people could see, hey, this boy can drive a GT3 car really quickly. And then the opportunities came up with James Safrona's car, Washington, and this GMG group. He is absolutely flying right now. He certainly has a little bit more speed in that Porsche, it seems, than Robbie Foley does. Certainly Robbie's trying to manage things, control things, but this is a battle for the overall lead and the lead in class. Sargent, how quickly is he going to try and pounce here?
On board.
Woo! I think Robbie saw him coming. Was he going to dive to the inside? Robbie just trying to feel. You could see the language of the car there. Robbie just didn't commit to the apex. Kind of waited that split second before he made a second bite on that carving of the corner.
At this stage in the stint, Porsche looks very strong. This is again very similar to what we saw in GT America earlier today. These two teams with the co-drivers in these two cars going head-to-head for the win of that race. Foley doing what he needs to do, at least for now, keeping Sargent in check.
It seems that Porsche just seems to have really good flow. Doesn't have to stop the car as much. The BMW looks a little bit more awkward, where Robbie has to really kind of park the car a little bit more in turns 15. And I think we saw this morning with Washington, he thought he could just roll the speed through the mid-apex, and I think Sargent's feeling the same thing. They've got a great setup here this weekend, GMG does.
Kyle also spent a long time behind the BMW, and it seemed like that took a toll on the Pirellis over the course of that 40-minute race. So maybe a little urgency here for Tom to try and get this move made sooner rather than later.
Yeah, for Foley, they have a pretty healthy lead in the championship right now based on 3 podiums on the bounce. So I know it's early days, but they're thinking big picture. The 91 car did not have a great day yesterday. Sargent and Washington did not have a good weekend in Sonoma, so they're not a real threat right now. So early to be thinking about championship and maybe letting him go, but he's not going to get too forceful. I think Foley's a really smart driver, super quick, demonstrated by that blistering pole lap here yesterday, but seems like he's struggling with the car maybe a little bit more than Sargent is.
Sargent just seems confident that even if it slides, even if it steps out, he can make the correction and keep going in pursuit. It's a bit more conservative, perhaps, a bit more tidy from the BMW, but the speed advantage is with this car. On board with the Porsche of Tom Sargent, closing in again.
The brake lights momentarily come on by Foley as he's coming down that hill. I think the one thing you got to be conscious of, when you run the curbs as much as you do around here, you get what we call a little bit of kickback on the pistons in the brake calipers, and I think Robbie just makes sure that brake pedal is going to be there when he needs it, down into the brake zone.
Sargent just took a little peek there to his left, screen right. Maybe trying to distract Foley slightly. That motion in the mirror can draw the eye at a crucial moment. It's going to be difficult to phase Robbie Foley at this stage in his career. And it does seem like Grenier's starting to find a little bit more pace relative to the top two. Certainly not falling behind any.
And he had a really good last lap there, about half a second quicker than Sargent, who he's chasing immediately in front of him.
And now Michael Cooper, the cork in this bottle. He's got Matt Bell behind him, Aaron Thielitz behind Bell, and Jan Halen has joined the party too.
Really impressed what DXDT have done with this program since they got these new Corvettes. They debuted them here last year. 2 wins immediately for Milner and Udell in the pro class. 1 here yesterday, so they got quite the record going for 4 wins on the bounce with this car, admittedly in 2 different classes.
Impressive as well what Racer's Edge is doing with the Aston Martin of Michael Cooper. Shares that car with Jason Bell. Totally new for them, having spent so many years with the Acura platform, winning lots of races and championships. It's a new program, and a little change at the helm as well, with John Maraki recently announcing he was stepping back from managing the team day to day for a long and successful career running that Racer's Edge team.
Yeah, they've had so much success. They won a championship back in 19 with Marcelli and Barkey, 20 with Hinman and Blackstock, and then just 3 years ago with Farnbacher and Harrison. So a ton of success since they made that switch. They were stalwarts of GT4 racing, made that switch and just took it in their stride.
Jim Patton now overseeing that operation. He spent time as an engineer, a gearbox specialist, strategist, and managed the shop located in DeLand, Florida. And Michael Cooper, unprompted, just was raving about how prepared Jim Patton is for this new level of responsibility. So by all accounts, the team in very good hands, but it will be strange, and it is strange here this weekend not having John around. He founded the team all the way back in 1990, so you think he's put the better part of half of his life, if not more, into this team that means so much to him.
Yeah, and you think about some of the young drivers that he's had come through his ranks, guys like Hidman and Blackstock, who have gone on to great things in the world of motorsport, but certainly other names like Jordan Taylor, Dane Cameron. A lot of these young drivers kind of cut their teeth through the tutelage of John Maraki. So congratulations on your, I'll call it retirement. I'm sure he's still going to have his head in the camp now and again, but achieved a lot.
We're breathing a little easier now. Matt Bell not as close as he once was.
Thought he kind of escaped Sargent there a little bit over the last couple of laps, 2/10 quicker on that lap.
Grenier's faster than the pair of them, and by a fairly healthy margin. Mercedes looks strong on the long run.
Yeah, and that's the key. I mean, it's a long stint. We expect these pros to stay in the car up to the maximum 50 minutes. So, you know, you got to be careful. You can't get too aggressive with your starting tire pressures. You may peak those and get over the threshold where they're going to give you the grip. So, a lot of calculations going into what is potentially a long green flag run here. But look at this. Sargent is suddenly all over the back of Foley again.
What happened here? That gap has been completely erased, and the Porsche has arrived on the scene once again, towing the Mercedes along with him. He'll want to get this job done before the Mercedes is well and truly arrive, because then it makes it that much more difficult when you're stuck in the middle playing defense and offense simultaneously.
Foley's got something going on with his race cars, a couple of laps where he just seems to have lost a fair chunk in the middle sector. We'll see how this one reads, just a couple of tenths there slower, but he also you know, he did that a few laps ago, so maybe that he's just a bit vulnerable there. We suddenly see them bursting down the hill, and Sargent just visibly is a lot closer, and then it kind of concertinas out over the course of the full lap.
There is Justin Rothberg, looking
Pretty
as cool
chill.
as can be.
Yeah.
He's ready to go, though. Battle tested already this morning. What a great duel it was. We keep going back to it, but it was outstanding. If you haven't seen it, I commend that race broadcast to you. Rothberg and Washington for about 40 straight minutes at the front of the field.
Stood there with Justin and his brother, who's here this weekend. His brother was ribbing Justin a little bit. He said, hey, we need like some grid girls like the GMG folks have, so we'll see.
There's Kyle Washington. He, too, is getting ready. Taking care of that hydration before he heads out on track. So important to prepare your body, especially on a hot, humid day like this one.
A little e-boost maybe going in the tank.
Whatever he had for breakfast, I hope he had it for lunch, because he came out fighting this morning.
He's a busy boy, doing about 30 races this year across various championships. And that seat time is so beneficial when you're trying to learn the trade of racing and the tutelage that he's got from the top with James Sofronis and his racing experience, and just they're great friends. They have dinners together, just talk about racing non-stop, I'm sure, amongst other things. And then you got a young gun like Tom Sargent, who just laid down a data lap for you to see if you can go out and mimic and put your performance on top of his.
Talking about the importance of seat time, that's what makes what Justin Rothberg has done this year so impressive, because in contrast, he is not running 30-plus races. They're not even doing any testing. He did nothing over the offseason, and yet he's been able to jump in and be right where he left off at the tail end of last year.
He even showed up a little bit late to Sonoma, because he was finishing off an internship that he was doing coincidentally with Elias Sabo in the 511 company.
Back a little bit further in the pack. This is the second-placed car in Pro. No pressure behind, as mentioned. The other two cars out of the Random Vandals stable, each with their own sob story, involved the two of them together. Contact really early on has delayed them significantly. So Halen can afford to be a bit patient here. I'm excited to see Alex Sedgwick, his young teammate, get a chance to try and finish this race off. Alex was outstanding at Sonoma.
Schreibman up ahead of these guys, running in the AM class to see if these boys can clear him. Yeah, he just gets out of the throttle, got the message like leaders are coming through. Nicely done, Jay.
He was really good about that yesterday when some of those lead battles were coming through backmarker traffic. Very aware of the situation and didn't want to play a part in it, especially as yesterday he was effectively running unopposed to the checkered flag with the Dollarhide car having issues early in the going. Right now, Jay just trying to keep it relatively close to the Mustang to prepare for the second stint when Anthony Lazzaro gets aboard the Mustang and Oz Negri climbs aboard the Ferrari.
Shot there of Kai Stevens loosening up, and then Philip Ellis getting his balaclava on and ready to go. He'll be in the car early as soon as they can get to that point in this race, which will be 51 minutes and 16 seconds left on the clock. You would think that the Regulator Racing team would have Jeff Burton in and see what Philip Ellis can go to work with.
Jeff's done pretty well hanging with the pack when you consider he's up against the pros in these Pro-Am cars. Here he is, 20 seconds behind Isaac Sherman, but only 24, 25 seconds behind a factory driver like Darren Turner or a champion like Kyle Marcelli, Jan Halen, Aaron Telitz, Matt Bell, et cetera, et cetera. Really what this team wanted to see was a yellow to bunch things up here in this first stint, but barring that...
Any point, yeah, even if
true.
it happened early in Ellis's stint too, but... problems here for Telitz, got a left front issue.
Was having a great run, charging up through the field, was up as high as 6th overall, just inside the top 5 in class. But the left front seems to have given way, whether it was cut down or there was contact, too soon to say. A long way to limp back around.
I'll be careful when that thing starts to shred. It can bounce around in the wheel well and cut down some hoses, lines, sensors. These cars do have AWS, so there's some wheel speed sensor. You lose that, creates a braking issue.
This will do it. It was contact into the side of Halen.
It's down in turn 11, the previous corner to when we first saw him.
That was Halen putting a move, actually, on this car.
Curious to know how far back Halen came from, whether Aaron was closing the door a little bit or just a late move by Jan. Sure the stewards will take a close look at it and come up with a decision. But meanwhile, up front, things settle down. Seems like Robbie Foley's doing a nice job here of managing things. Looked vulnerable at a certain point when Sargent went on a tear once he cleared Grenier, but hasn't been able to figure it out. Maybe just cooled his tires down for a little last gasp here. Can be in the car for another 15 minutes, 50 minutes max, so 40 minutes left on the board would be the maximum amount of stint time for these opening drivers.
Yeah, that's the tough thing here for Telitz. He's in the pit lane now to deal with that puncture, but this is not
too early. A
time where they can make the driver change and try and make the most of it. So that means that he has to make an additional pit stop. That is painful.
Yeah, pit stop on the green probably cost you about 30 seconds plus. 38 seconds based on the data we saw yesterday to physically drive down pit lane, but then obviously the other cars to cover a similar distance out on the racetrack.
It's dropped Aaron almost to the back of the Pro-Am field, and that's a field that's deep enough where you can't count on scoring points. You have to finish ahead of a couple at least to be inside the top 10 and score towards the championship. Make for a difficult recovery for Todd Coleman when he climbs aboard here in a few minutes. There is Todd. Can't do too much thinking about that right now. Have to think about the task at hand. Go back on board with Tom Sargent, who seems to back off from time to time, cool things off, and then open up with another salvo, which he might be in the process of doing right now, trying to run down the leader. Turner Motorsport has controlled this race from the drop of the green with Robbie Foley. How important for those 0.008 of a second in qualifying. That's what put Robbie in a position to consolidate the top spot. Sargent actually got shuffled back at the drop of the green, lost a couple of spots, has raced his way back to second. He's caught the leader. There is pace in the Porsche, but Foley hasn't made a mistake that Sargent can take advantage of.
Yeah, just looking at the times here, the top 7 cars have all got lap times in the 2:04 range. Fastest lap is still held by Sargent at 2:04.4, but Carl Marcelli has laid down a lap in the 4 bracket as well, so he's got speed there in the Lab Motorsport Porsche this weekend.
Next lap or the one after, kind of depends where you are in the queue, I suppose, but we could see Jeff Burton coming, let's say, as soon as a lap and a half from now. Trying to get Philip Ellis in to maximize his seat time and turn him loose.
Yeah, Marcelo Hahn will probably be in as well, turn over to his pro.
Alon Kodaider, who has been outstanding so far this season, had a spirited drive in one of the races at Sonoma that we chronicled at the time.
The gap between Mikel Grenier that runs 3rd in this pack that we're looking at and Jan Halen, who's 2nd in the pro class, is not massive. It's only 5 seconds between the 1st and 2nd place car in pro, so it certainly gives Alex Sedgwick some hope, but Mackay Stevens, you know, is going to be up to the task here. He and Mikel Grenier have been so evenly matched, despite Mackay Stevens having 0 GT3 experience, really, compared to Mikel Grenier, who's been driving this type of car for several years now, so that really puts his performance into perspective as well.
It does. Possibly complicating things for RS1 with Halen and Sedgwick is that incident is under review right now. We'll see what ultimately is handed down. We only got that brief glimpse of it right at the tail end, so hard to form too much of an opinion based on the limited evidence that we've been presented with.
Yeah, if they're side by side coming down the hill and they both try and go through the corner and there's not enough room, then it could be a 50-50 situation, but it was a late move. To me, the car was turned a lot, which would indicate to me he was alongside him for quite some time.
The McLaren, you mean? Or the Porsche?
Porsche, yeah. You know, it wasn't like he just turned in and just nailed him there. It was a little bit later in the move, but they want to make the right decision. That's been important to know.
Here we go, as speculated. Going to go ahead and bring the Regulator Racing car in.
It seems early.
What did you say that you thought the cutoff time was?
51.16.
Well, maybe they
You're
think
a minute 16 on pit lane. They're going to have to hold him, otherwise Alice is going to get out with more than 50 minutes to go. I've got a feeling this pit stop's going to have to be long.
In order to make sure they don't run afoul. Yeah, the time spent in the pits doesn't count towards
right
start
now
time.
would be the mark. You can come in, do a 76-second stop and get back out. He's halfway down pit road. I hope the team are on top of that.
Driver change underway. Jeff Burton out. Did a stout job, as he has been this season, taking his driving to another level.
You have to recognize this mistake. You can't just go by off the minimum stop time. That's calculating. There's a little monitor on the dash that will release you, say, okay, you're good to go. I'll be under 76 seconds. That's not the issue. He came at pit lane, in my mind, a good 10 seconds plus too early.
And that is strange. I mean, you can circumvent that by just sitting in the pit lane an additional 10 seconds, but
wouldn't
that's
want to do that.
more
I mean, it's
time
not
than,
like Jeff has given up 10 seconds.
Right.
This is, look at the clock. He can only do 50 minutes maximum stint drive. This is a mistake.
Very surprising.
The only way you can correct that is to drive back down pit lane. One drive-through would correct it, but
now you're losing even more than the 10 seconds you would lose sitting still.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll let them sort that out. We'll focus here on the lead.
Works for me. Amanda might have an update for us. What are you hearing?
Hey guys, yeah, I was watching over of this Regulator Racing pit stop. I was looking at Stefan and asking him on timing. He thinks that they're in the good, or was hoping that they're in the good. I do see Jeff Burton out of the car, and talking to the delta between Jeff Burton and the leader was about 40 seconds when he came in. Philip Ellis thinks that they can reach a podium today, flirting with an overall win if they see that yellow flag, but we'll have to keep a monitor on that pit stop and driver stint. And Calvin, remind me if you remember this last year. I think this issue happened right here at the track for Regulator Racing at COTA last season.
They did. Yeah, you're spot on, Amanda. They did have an issue with drive time and pit stops here last year, so I hate to see that bite the team a second time. I just don't see any way that he can be leaving pit lane with 50 minutes and 20 seconds or whatever it was on the board. How can you be under 50-minute stint length?
Right. We saw Isaac Sherman stop and have to reset his car on track. Now he's back up to pace, it would appear. AF Corsa has called Marcelo Hahn in. They are the other team that uses that inverted strategy that Regulator Racing uses. Here is that blue Ferrari, and Alam Kodair will jump aboard. We'll get to watch him come up through the field in his stint. Effectively, what these two teams are doing is they've inverted their driver 1 and driver 2 relative to the rest of the Pro-Am field. Traditionally, driver 1 is your less experienced driver. Driver 2 is the pro, but they do it the opposite way around. So it makes for a fascinating race with comers and goers in that Pro-Am class.
The irony with the Regulator Racing decision is that the pit stop was spot on, 76.4 seconds. So they nailed it. They really need to have a really bad one. It wasn't the case.
Yeah.
I jest, but yeah, it is serious stuff, and I'm sure there's going to be some frustration down there.
Halen is in, maybe to get him out of traffic.
Well, also they got Alex Sedgwick, who's been really quick, so they're not giving up too much. I mean, all of the pro entries have got pretty much even caliber drivers in, so it gives you a little bit of flexibility here. The one thing we don't have this year is tire warmers, so sometimes the undercut used to work last year, getting fresh tires on. Oh, here we go up front. Let's focus on this for now.
Yeah, Sargent is on the charge again. This might be his last chance to try and take the lead away prior to the pit stops before it's the two co-drivers that need to settle it.
Just to clarify, 40 minutes needs to be on that clock, 40.0 something. To not exceed 50 minutes in the opening stint, so these drivers can stay out there 7 more minutes potentially, but it's all about where they hit the pit line, so that number may change, or could be up to like a minute 50 or whatever, shy of that 40-minute mark.
Sherman has also pitted. This is presumably to put Jason Daskalos in, but again, we did see that car stop momentarily, so maybe it could also be dealing with a technical issue.
You are in the danger zone a little bit if one of your competitors had made that early stop, because if suddenly there is a yellow and they have to go yellow immediately for a big one, then safety cars, that pit lane is closed.
Drive-through penalty to the blue AF Corsa Ferrari. That's their Pro-Am entry, car 16, speeding in the pits.
Pit in. I would have to think that's on pit in.
And here we go. We were wondering about this. A drive-through penalty to this car, RS1. It'll be Alex Sedgwick who has to serve it, but Jan Halen judged to be responsible for that incident with Aaron Tielitz. And here comes Grenier in from the lead in Pro. All of the other Pro cars have had problems, whether it's a penalty or contact or both.
Yeah, they're kind of making it easy on the JMF boys and girls today.
Well, remember, they made the crucial mistake yesterday. They were under pit stop minimum, and that time penalty, small as it was, just 1.74 seconds, cost them the win to Random Vandals Racing.
Well, the risk versus reward is literally tenfold, because any little mistake trying to cut it so close, you multiply that by 10 for how much post-race penalty you have to serve. And Richard Rader there looking over things, team manager there at JMF. Had a chuckle with him so I walked in the TV booth, sent you, make sure you get that pit stop right today, mate, and he just laughed.
Hey, Cal, on the subject of the shorts, of the going over on the stint, isn't there something about if it's relatively minor in terms of going over, the penalty is not a drive-through? Does that ring any bells?
No.
No, okay.
You could be right, but it doesn't ring a bell. I'm not sure of that rule.
All right. Oh, and we got another problem here for Schwez Povoledo Racing. This car is stopped on track. This is at turn 20. Remember, they had the issue with the dragging wheel earlier. Look at that.
Yeah, same thing, I bet.
I think so, too. You can see the skid mark.
Yeah, well, that's going to throw the cat amongst the pigeons for these guys who haven't pitted yet. So they may elect to give these leaders an opportunity to pit. So expect to see these guys in pit lane here, I would think.
Nope.
Oh, no, they don't.
Full-course yellow right away. That is crucial for these top two. They don't get the chance to dive into the pits. That means everyone who has pitted will cycle forward once the pit stops are complete. Let's look at this here again for Aaron Povolato. Whoa, that was a major failure.
Broke there on the left front. It was a rear lockup that caused the earlier issue where he just dragging the rear corner around. That was something on the front. We use the curbs a lot around here, so I think maybe the suspension is just broken and that left front corner had no control. It's just jacked itself up against the monocoque.
If you are regulator racing, once the pits open...
Well, this was, I mean, if they hadn't made the mistake, they would be in the prime seat right now.
I think they're still okay, potentially, if you take the yellow to drive through the pit lane. Because you're going to be caught right back up, and it's going to be all...
They're all going to be servicing, so they'll catch back up. When pit opens, they need to roll down as well to take away some of that drive stint length from Ellis. And everyone else is going to be servicing, and basically they'll be driving by people in pit lane, and it's going to be totally kosher. That is the ultimate break.
Yeah. Well, when Sherman stopped, I started thinking about this. I thought if there's a full course yellow for that, this is a way for regulator to get back in.
Because they're about 20-odd seconds out of the box, and driving down pit lane will take about 38 seconds off that number. So suddenly he's going to be about 15, 16 seconds to the good.
Yeah. I mean, look, we could be...
And there's really going to be no message come up to this team that they're out of bounds, because it'll only happen in the last minute of the race.
Right, exactly.
So it's up to them to discover it.
Well, plenty to sift through in this one. And maybe the other thing to take away, let's see. So this group that's up at the front that still has not pitted. So the top 6 cars are yet to make pit stops. They will lose that track position once they pit due to the safety car deployment. And that really reshuffles the deck. This gives that opportunity for regulator racing to maybe right there wrong.
Got to be on top of it, though.
Well, here's the thing. It's a smart team, if we can think of it.
Yeah. I'd struggle to come up with an argument that we're good when we saw him leaving pit lane and it was 50-20 something. Stefan Pfeiffer is normally smiling. I'm not sure he was smiling after he realized what had happened.
Well, we'll see how this one plays out here. Past the halfway mark. Packed a lot into the first 50 minutes of this one. Foley, Sargent, Cooper, Bell, Marcelli, and Turner, all of their hard work effectively gets undone. This should cycle Stevens to the overall lead of the race. It would cycle, of all people, oh, it wouldn't, because Tielitz is still in the car.
Yeah.
I was thinking they were going to
really
really
benefit. He's had a pit
benefit.
stop, but it wasn't in a window where they could change drivers, and that pit stop doesn't count.
Right.
You can come down pit lane as well, other than the speed. You can do as fast a pit stop as you want if it's outside of that.
Yeah, not the full service stop, not the driver change.
Yeah.
So yeah, if Ellis plays this right, if regulator plays this right, they should cycle up towards the front of this field.
So this is going to be interesting. Everyone rolling in potentially here right now, and it's going to be all about nailing. So Robbie's going to try and gap the field a little bit, try and give his team about half a second. Now Sargent takes it back, Cooper nearly runs into the back of him. Because what they're trying to do here is going to be all about how risky do you get cutting that fine line of the 70-second minimum stop time.
Crucial yellow flag pit stops. This is where execution really matters. Everyone's bunched all together. You can gain and lose position. Here comes the Burton Lumber car. Here comes Phil Ellis just passing through the pit lane.
Yeah,
this should solve their problem.
Yeah, he should basically stay in that fast lane, just continue, and this is taking about 37, 38 seconds off his stint length, which is what he needs to be underneath that 50 minutes.
Yeah, so he won't even stop. He'll go right by these guys. The reason, in case this is getting a bit confusing, the reason is he was released from the pits with over 50 minutes to go, 50 minutes, 16 seconds or so to go in the race. You can't go more than 50 minutes in a stint. So time spent in the pit lane doesn't count towards your drive time. Effectively, these 30 seconds then disappear from Philip's drive time. Now they're 15, 16 seconds to the good, thanks to just passing through the pit lane. Problem solved.
Yeah, essentially a stint leg stop when he hit pit lane and restarts when he exits. So let's see what happens here. Which team can get it right? Is there a delay here on Foley's car? There must be.
Yes.
Problems for Turner Motorsport. This is devastating for the championship leaders.
Like it was on the left rear, maybe.
Well, he just got to the left rear late. I think it must have been on the right side initially to be getting around at that left side. I mean, normally the tires are done well before the fuel and the car is released, so they were getting to the left side late. So I'm assuming it was a right side issue potentially.
Fantastic work from Racer's Edge. It's Jason Bell who wins the race off of pit road.
And getting back to the Ellis scenario, he was 36.9 seconds on pit lane, so that was all he needed.
Yeah, so now he's 20 seconds
Hopefully
to the good.
Too fast.
Well, don't go there. So as mentioned, Racer's Edge wins that battle in the pit lane. Good execution there, but there's a problem for Bell.
Remember, we don't have tire warmers this year, and he's
Windshield
got caught out.
wipers.
Is there a shower over there, or has he just been arms and elbows and hit the windshield wiper as he's tried to save the race car?
Well, that then promotes in this group, presumably, the DXDT Corvette back to the front, and effectively that would put them third in Pro-Am. I think Daskalos will be the Pro-Am leader, having already made that pit stop. Wow. Cold tires, just trying to catch up to the train.
Yeah. Other cars are slipping around. I wonder if there is a little pop-up shower over in that corner that caught out Jason Bell. I think we also saw the two Vandals machines stay out and kind of get the wave by around.
Amanda says there was an issue getting the air, compressed air to the air gun. That's what caused the delay for the Turner stop. Big setback there. I was getting around to this. This is the other crew that was bailed out by that yellow. They served as long as they served the drive-through. I'm actually not sure that they did.
Yeah, and Halen, you mean, and Cedric had to
yeah,
serve it.
they
How
did.
many times they've been in? They've been
Twice, so they must have. Or did they pit when they... No, they didn't. I think they're okay. So they are, I believe, legitimately second on the road and second in
I
pro.
hope he didn't. You can't serve a penalty drive-through under yellow.
He
so
didn't. He would have had to have done it already, because otherwise he wouldn't be ahead of Daskalos here. I feel confident in saying.
If they stacked up and he came in and didn't do any service, he would have passed Daskalos. But anyway,
I think Daskalos had already done the stop prior to the yellow.
Okay. Yeah, we're feeling he may have served it.
Okay.
We're what, 50% confident?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Suboptimal amount of confidence.
We don't have the vision to support it. That's the problem.
Thanks for bearing with us, everybody. This is one, it's tough to parse through here in real time. But if we understand this correctly, a couple of things have now happened. We have a real battle for the Pro Class win on our hands between JMF and RS1. The Pro-Am class is totally reshuffled. Robbie Foley can't quite believe everything that's just transpired. I believe that despite stopping on track momentarily and then resetting things in that first stint, it's CRP racing with Jason Daskalos now in the car that Isaac Sherman started, leading legitimately in Pro-Am. Then Philip Ellis. Somehow Regulator Racing was able to cut the Gordian knot there with their potential drive time issue. The timing of that yellow was perfect. They used the drive-through at the pit lane in order to get to the good on the drive time, and now Ellis is second in Pro-Am and right there nose to tail with the class leader. And after the spin for Jason Bell leaving the pits, Blake McDonald now finds himself third, looking for his second consecutive podium here at Circuit of the Americas, having won yesterday.
Yeah, wow, that was certainly a wild few minutes there. If there isn't a shower on the racetrack, it was certainly catching out other drivers. I think we saw Blake McDonald right behind Jason Bell there have a big sideways moment, trying to get those tires up to temperature. There's been a lot of strategy plays that have been incorporated, even in qualifying, like regulator racing will have Philip Ellis, for example, do a run on sticker set in qualifying 1. There's a 10-minute break. They keep those tires on to give Jeff Burton at least a little bit of help when he goes out to lay down a qualifying run for them, and it adds a set to your allocation to use in both races. Of course, there's a double benefit to that.
This race started off wacky with the two Random Vandals cars colliding with each other very early in the going, and it really hasn't settled down much since then. Go on board here with Alex Sedgwick, running behind the safety car. The safety car, by the way, brought out because of the technical issue for Aaron Povolato. His Corvette stopped in the middle of the track there in turn 20, and you were wondering whether or not they could leave the track green to try and give everyone a chance to get to the pit lane and not disadvantage a couple of those that had waited. But quite frankly, that car really was not in a good spot, sitting a couple feet off.
No, it was obviously right on the racing line almost, and you know, I'm just not aware. I couldn't really tell how many cars had been by the scenario and seen it already. So you got to play it safe. You can't risk anything with someone sitting in the race car and abandoned there in the middle of the road. So it was the right call.
Totally agree. Don't think there was much choice in the matter, frankly.
If it'd been further off the racetrack, then they may have elected to allow the full field, not just the leaders, to have that opportunity to pit.
I think with suspension as compromised as it appeared to be, this is making it a real challenge to recover that car.
Well, it becomes a sled because you know, it's not sitting on all 4 corners. It means that the ride height is too low, and it's going to just rip the floor out if you're too aggressive getting it loaded up.
Sure, Aaron is there trying to provide some insight.
Spoke to Aaron about that snap spin that he said yesterday. He said, no, it wasn't TC related. He said we're a bit low in the torque range for the TC to even be working there. He just said there's like a weird, they've done some drainage stuff there. There's like a weird lump of concrete. And he said on the slowdown lap, he looked over to the corner to say, what was going on? How did I get caught out there? And he actually saw it. He just said, my line through there just caught me out, and it just kind of unsettled the rear, and he had that quick spin there in the middle of the race yesterday, or middle of his stint, should I say.
Yeah, very strange. There's Isaac Sherman. Things, I believe, have broken very well for them. The other question, I suppose, is what caused him to have to stop on track in stint 1, and is that something that could recur? Right now, they lead in Pro-Am, and Jason Dascalos, who we know can get pretty feisty, he'll want to try and keep Philip Ellis behind for sure. Phil's going to have to work for this one.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to believe with the experience levels of the guys who are in those Pro-Am cars right now, Philip Ellis is the favorite here to take the regulator Mercedes to the front, but it should be a fascinating battle for the other podium spots between Dascalos, McDonald, Coleman, Washington, Gray Newell, Jason Bell, LaBerge. Rothberg is now kind of towards the tail end of that Pro-Am pack. So our championship leader from the leaders now running in P9 in class P11 overall.
Report from Amanda. This is great news for RS1. They did serve that drive-through prior to the full course yellow, so that washes away Jan Halen's error effectively, or at least it was judged to be Jan Halen's error. Not really for me to say, but that's what race control issued. A drive-through penalty for the contact.
Well, the irony in all of this is the fact that Amanda and I had a chat at the start of the show talking about perfect execution and no mistakes, and we've potentially got a couple of winners here with Sedgwick car sitting in P2 and Ella sitting in P2 in Pro-Am that could grab a win with a major faux pas.
The leader in Am has had a drive-through penalty in this race. Yeah, not out of the realm of possibility, that's for sure. I mean, I'm looking for someone that's had a clean run to this point, and outside of Grenier and Stevens and JMF, it's hard to find anyone that doesn't have a blot or two on the copybook. One thing we haven't done yet is just make sure everyone's pit time was on the up and up, and I don't see any violations. Do you?
No, I think we're good.
Okay, that's the last thing we needed. More of those time penalties that actually did make the into the race yesterday. Quite fascinating.
Philip Ellis may end up with fast laps today. He also has the fastest pit stop time as well.
That drive
A couple
through.
of tenths.
Yeah. Hey, he'll
It's not a
stack 'em
point
up.
for that, is there?
I don't think so. Not yet, at least. Is Mike still wagging? Giving the beans to the super safety car. Getting out of the way. We're about to turn them loose here with just 29 minutes on the clock. This did take a good chunk of the race away. Stevens out of the final corner with Sedgwick hot on his heels. Daskalos goes way wide out of turn 20. That will leave him vulnerable to Philip Ellis. Keep an eye on those two Mercedes. That's for the lead in Pro-Am. Coming up the hill on the restart. Stevens, Sedgwick. Here comes Ellis to the inside.
He sends it big time, had to switch lanes there to get it done. Daskalos was really just focused on Ellis behind him, let the two pro cars take off there through 19 and 20, but even doing that, couldn't resist the challenge from Ellis from behind.
That drops the CRP car back to second, into the clutches now of Blake McDonald, who's been something of a revelation here this weekend at Circuit of the Americas. This team knows this track so well. They've had so much success here. Got the first global win for the Corvette Z06 GT3R at this venue, at this event 1 year ago.
Yeah, Daskalos is going to dig deep. I'm sure he recognized the fact I'm going to struggle to keep Ellis behind me. And look at the battle behind. Here comes Kyle Washington on Todd Coleman, down into the brake zone for 11.
Here he comes up the inside and does
little
get
lock
that
up,
position.
little correction there. Rear was twitching on him again. They don't probably have full tire temperature just yet. Just getting back to green flag racing. Had a little moment there. He caught it nicely.
Speeding penalty to the leader in AM. They'll have to do a drive-through in the Dollarhide Racing Ford Mustang.
Ellis catching on to the back end of the two pro cars up ahead. Jason Bell side by side with Rothberg. Rothberg just nips through. Rothberg said he's never had a more fun race than he did this morning in GT America. Let's see if he can have some fun here this afternoon and somehow get this Turner Motorsports BMW back into a top 5 or a podium spot. Looks to the inside on Gray Newell late. Alam Kodair, that's a pro going up against JB LeBurge there.
It is, but it's a pro that's about to serve a massive penalty. We just got word, improper pass around, so it's a stop plus about 4 minutes. So that car basically got a lap it should not have. They have to give that lap back, plus effectively the time for another, and that will take them out of contention. Stevens and Sedgwick, that's the fight at the front of the field. Philip Ellis will need to think very carefully about how he wants to play this. He leads in Pro-Am with no pressure behind, but he has the top two in Pro directly ahead, engaged in a battle for the win.
Yeah, this is massive for the 91 team because they lost a lot of ground in the championship yesterday. Came into this round, just round 4 of the championship, 21 points behind Rothberg and Foley, but they could reverse that here today very, very quickly with a win, and with Rothberg still deep in that Pro-Am pack.
Amazing how this has fallen into the hands of Regulator Racing. It looked like they had made a critical error calling Jeff Burton in a lap too soon, but they've been able to atone with a little help from Lady Luck. Could this be a second win in the first 4 races for Jeff Burton and Philip Ellis? It's certainly shaping up to look that way, but still 25 minutes and change to go.
Way to go. Kyle Washington is on the attack. Sits there in P4 in Pro-Am, just in the backdrop. You'll just see him come into view right there. Here's Ellis down to the inside of Alex Sedgwick. Alex probably needs to just let him go and just run on his coattails here and see when he tries to open up the gap on Mackay Stevens. If a great opportunity for Sedgwick to follow him through. Easier said than done with the pace of Ellis.
He's been something else since turning up in this championship, although his resume just about anywhere he turns up is glittering. But his job on these weekends here, running this strategy, is just to push and go as fast as possible, whether that's in qualifying or the race, especially in race 1, where the job is to build the big gap. And as a racing driver, that has to be great. Not thinking about saving fuel, not worrying about saving tires, just push 100%.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Can't ask for more than that. Rothberg has gotten around Gray Newell. Now he chases after Todd Coleman.
This is trying to overcome that long pit stop. Problem with the air gun, as Amanda reported. Took this car out of the lead, at least on their
Coleman's in there
sequence.
deep. Maybe got in the ABS, just lost the front end briefly. Rothberg wasn't close enough to take advantage this time. Plenty of time on the board, but you know, the longer you wait on one position just gives you less time to catch the next person up the chain.
This would be for 5th in Pro-Am. Championship leading car.
A lot of dirt out there. Wow, look at that. Jason Bell really wide there through the S's.
Yeah, Jason's got to be kicking himself. That spin, it's so easy to do on cold tires. Coming into
Rothberg's
the
going to make
pits.
a move here, I feel.
He's in the slipstream, pulls out a line to the inside and diving straight for the apex. Justin Rothberg will let it slide wide, but Todd Coleman read that beautifully, crosses back under, and the McLaren fights back to the inside now.
Drag race down that back straight. Typically, BMW wins most of those. Coleman's hanging tough, though.
Sure
Middle of the
is.
road. He's got a factor in. He's not going to have as much grip there. That McLaren's pretty sporty in terms of the straightaway speed. Great job by Todd Coleman there, arresting the speed on the dirty part of the racetrack, and I think he's got that position back. Rothberg's going to dig deep here, fires it down the inside, and finally clears the McLaren, but Todd Coleman did not make that easy. Great job there.
Well, we saw Rothberg in a very similar battle, this part of the track, with Kyle Washington earlier this morning, and you have to think maybe getting some of that experience earlier today that you can draw upon, that's such a huge asset.
I think, well, Washington actually made that move around the outside in that exact corner, didn't he? So maybe he learned something, put that in the memory bank.
And we call it the Washington, or maybe we call it the E-Boost. In any event, it worked well this time for Justin Rothberg, and now we have to call it the Latacrete, maybe, as Kodair comes in to the pit lane, serving that lengthy penalty, as mentioned, for the improper pass around.
Rothberg now up to a top 5 position. Damage limitation. Washington, the guy that he fought out this morning for that GT America win, though, is a long way down the road now. That gap is some 5 seconds, so he's got to get his head down. It's going to be a tall order the way that Kyle Washington, that GMG Porsche, is performing here this weekend.
Kyle has been on his game here in 2025. All that racing, all that seat time he's getting here this year, paying dividends. As Ellis has caught Stevens now. Battle for the overall lead starting to erupt between a couple of Mercedes drivers, and this is a big moment here for Mackay Stevens in just his 4th ever GT3 start in the same car up against a factory ace like Philip Ellis. This is a chance to go to school a little bit.
Yeah, I'd let him go, though. I mean, you don't want to fight. You don't want to risk getting bumped. Ellis always keeps it clean. He's a super smart guy, but, you know, for Stevens, you know, let him by with the minimal amount of time loss so you don't allow Sedgwick to get any closer to it, but don't start compromising your lines or doing anything like that. Yeah, the overall win is nice. It's the cherry on the top, but don't risk the class victory.
The JMF car's best lap, 25.4. Ellis has the best lap of the race at a 2:04.9. It's about a half a second in hand. I'm not sure if that was Grenier's time in this car or if that was Mackay Stevens.
This may be one of those moments, though, for Mackay Stevens. Let me show what I can do against someone who's regarded as, if not the best, one of the very best aboard one of these AMG cars. And for Mackay Stevens, he would love to get a factory roll at some time, and no better litmus test than right now.
Yeah, Ellis is world class. Mackay Stevens wants to prove that he is as well. Down to the pits in Amanda.
Calvin, before that restart there, you were curious of what was happening to that Mercedes of Jason Daskalos. I talked to Isaac Sherman. He said they were having a fuel pressure issue. He pulled off the track to cycle that Mercedes through. Big fingers crossed for this team, but very happy with that pit stop. Just the 4th race of this pairing together, and 20 minutes to go, they would stand on a podium.
That would be a great result.
Oh, huge. Not focused on that right now, but Daskalos hangs on to that P2 in Pro-Am. Try to see here the dynamic here between the two class leaders, two almost identical. They're homologators. There's not too many parts that can be different. Certainly the way the tuning is done and the setups will be different team to team, but
Pretty much identical race cars. Mackay Stevens looks comfortable out front up against this AMG Ace. Here we go down into the brake zone. LeBurge down to the inside. Gray Newell gives him the lane. Oz Negri trying to fight his way through this pack as well. Now our AM class, now he's running second. Did Lazaro serve his penalty? Says that he's been in 3 times, so we'll have to figure that one out.
Shaping up to be a really good stint, though, for JF LeBurge. Moving forward after they got shuffled back a little bit.
Look at this little cluster.
Yeah, Negri's through on Newell now. That's the gray Ferrari right in the middle of this battle pack. Todd Coleman in the McLaren has LeBurge just behind him in the red Porsche. Then it's Negri, the interloper. He's a AM-class car mixed up with these Pro-Am runners.
You got Orblin at the back of this pack, who's a few laps down with the technical issues they've been having. Obviously got clobbered as well, but electrical issue. Bill's going to be frustrated because they had really good performance in testing, had fantastic pace at Sonoma, and this weekend has just not gone their way, despite testing here a week ago. You can see he just dropped back from this pack, so as Paul Sparta said to Amanda, they're managing an issue aboard that 51 car.
It's been a tough weekend for the team, and not just here in GT World Challenge America, as Negri goes for the position, at least the overall position on LeBurge, gets to the side, and the veteran will clear the Canadian. As Gray Newell now sniffing an opportunity, able to pull up alongside. It gets tight here, and Newell backs out of it. That opens up the door for Jason Bell to attack, but he too deciding discretion, the better part of valor, with 17 minutes to go.
I think he had nowhere to go. Oh, that was tight. Almost contact there into the brake zone for 20. Excuse me, into turn 11 between the two Mercedes.
Stevens not making it easy. But again, this is that moment in a driver's career you can make a reputation.
Remember with Daniel Morad at VIR a few years ago, going up as contact there between the Lab Motorsports Porsche and Todd Coleman. Get back to that point about making a statement. Daniel Morad did that, beating Jerome Bleekemolen a few years ago. Here it was 18, 19, somewhere in there. But anyway, that was certainly a statement and really established Daniel as one of the top GT3 pilots, someone as a go-to guy if you needed to plug him in.
He's caught the eye of Mercedes, and after being affiliated with them for a long time, finally got the big call up here this year. Top speeds once more on Race Vision, powered by AWS, BMW, Ford, Aston, BMW, and Chevy, all represented in the top 5.
Getting back to Rothberg, who's got the fastest top speed. His progress is not really moving forward right now. Washington, who we said he had that battle with this morning, last lap through was half a second quicker than our championship leader, so he is not catching him for P4 right now.
Top 3 come through, then you have to wait 7.5 seconds to get to this. Jason Daskalos with fingers crossed, because that car, as Amanda just chronicled, did stop on track temporarily in the first 40 minutes of this race.
I'm not sure if there's a backup fuel pump that they can go to and just switch to, or whether they actually just did a Control-Alt-Delete and something within the electrical system corrected it. Just gave it a different setting, but look at this. McDonald is all over Daskalos, but Daskalos running some really hot lap times. Super impressive what he's doing right now. They were within 300ths of a second on their previous lap, so nothing to choose between them. And Washington is honing in by 2 or 3 tenths of a second as a lap right behind them.
Jason's first year in GT World Challenge America. He's been a fixture, though, in GT America since that series debuted in 2021. He's been a runner-up in the GT3-based category in that series 2 times. As Ellis does go to the inside of Stevens. Stevens gives him just enough room. Here we go again through the stadium section here. Stevens and Ellis side by side for the overall lead of the race, but this is not for class position. So again, how much do you want to risk? Ellis carving the corner very nicely. He'll force Stevens a little bit wide, and that's just enough to get to the point. Philip Ellis and Regulator Racing lead overall with less than 15 minutes to go.
Yeah, I think Ellis got to the point, but Mackay Stevens made a point right there. Like, I'm just not going to be walked over. I've got talent, I've got speed in one of these cars, but Just in that little exchange, just allowed Sedgwick to get that little bit closer and give him a sniff. Mikel Grenier, John Farrow watch on as their charge. Mackay Stevens continues to lead in pro, but has lost that overall track position.
Yeah, and has lost that gap, that buffer, back to Sedgwick, who starts to close in once again. This is another young man looking to make a point.
Very much. Yeah, just one of those guys who looked like he slipped through the net a couple of times, but he's here on North American soil, loving what he's doing and just embracing it and doing a nice job. Really nice young man. Didn't talk to him in Sonoma, had a nice chat with him here a couple of days ago, and he's the real deal.
Yeah, I've worked with him and doing some broadcasts of some lower level series as well. Very analytical, great in that role. Does a lot of coaching with young drivers. He's involved with PT Autosport, which is a platform that has been helping to identify promising talent in need of resources to showcase their talent in motorsports. He's part of that driver selection process and coaching process, and he's backed by PT to some degree here as well, coming to GT World Challenge America, pairing up with Jan Heylen in RS1 and having a really strong start to the season.
Kyle Washington has been awesome this weekend, just so fun to watch, and we talk about it all the time about our GT America class and watching new talents come up, some youngsters like Rothberg going up against veterans like Johnny O'Connell, last year's champion, Mamo Gidley, the 2023 champion, and just watching them not just find speed, but just their racecraft and their mentality and their poise in situations like this.
It has been fun to monitor that development. Washington's been outstanding. Daskelos doing what he needs to do to keep these two behind him, but it gets a little bit more difficult because he's just been warned for track limits abuses. This is part of the process. The first couple of instances are noted and informed, the team is informed. On the third instance, the message is sent out publicly so we can see it.
Fourth one, it's a penalty, right?
Correct, that's my understanding.
Yeah.
So Jason's going to need to be inch perfect now for the next 12 minutes or risk losing this podium.
This racetrack.
Nope.
If you commit in a corner, you can't just suddenly arrest the speed without going for a spin. So, you know, and it's different to a wall. I had this argument with people a lot. They're like, well, you're a race car driver, you can see it. But yeah, you can see a wall that's you know, the height of the cockpit, but looking at a line down when you've got your eyes looking through a corner and to make sure your tire is on one side or the other of that is a lot more difficult, and it can really get you off your game in terms of, well, how much am I compromised? How close was I? It's not like you're sitting on the outside and you have a snapshot immediately given to you. Like, okay, you got a few more inches to work with. It's really tricky, and if he's right on the edge of getting a penalty, that can really compromise his speed.
By contrast, you are informed very rapidly if you've gone a little too far when it is a wall that defines the track limits.
Yeah, I mean, I love this circuit, but just giving them the acreage that they do on some of these corners, like between 19 and 20, you can almost be in a different zip code between those two corners in particular and be so far out of bounds. And then the other issue you have with why do the stewards want to keep you in bounds, so to speak, is, yeah, there's the advantage of shortcutting the lap or having more speed, bigger radius through a corner, but also some of the tracks safety-wise not set up to be suddenly 20, 30 yards off the racing line, you know?
Yeah, that was a talking point when IndyCar raced here, and they did not police track limits there in 19 and 20, which led to a much more wide sweeping radius through there. And the question was, well, is the track really designed to be used in this way? Probably not, but anyway, different race directors have different approaches to how track limits are policed.
Well, JP Labarge is having a really nice run here. That team is great to see them back. They had the big hit at Sonoma, and they are committed. Talked to Carl Maselli the other day. He said, yeah, that was my mistake. I took it on the chin, but the team is supporting me. We want to come back and complete this season, and it's going to, days like today will keep everyone motivated there, I would think, in that whole group.
Yeah, Gray Newell taking a peek there at the back of Todd Coleman, who in turn is keeping his eye on Jean-Francois Laberge in
JF then, it's not JP.
Exactly.
In English, maybe it's got a P, I don't know.
And don't ask me about French pronunciation or spelling.
I appreciate the heads up. My apologies, JF.
Well, mea culpa for me too. I've been calling it LAB Motorsports, but it is Lab Motorsports in deference to the Le Berge. We'll get that right the rest of the way. But yeah, it has been a good day for them. That car's shown good pace this weekend. And I think there is something to be said, you know, on your first race weekend of the year, you're still feeling things out. And that's effectively what this is for the team, having missed the 2 races at Sonoma.
Yeah, and just they did, like you said, they didn't have a chance to go through this pit stop routine and you know, identify any nuance there that they needed to tidy up. So it's really their first full racing weekend, even though they are on site there. This is really tight, really feisty little battle here. Certainly Jason Bell and Gray Newell know each other well from their GT4 battles over the years.
That's a good point.
Auckland there in the backdrop. Just laid down a lap, which was in the 5, so that's a little bit more like it. So I'm not sure if he's just using this as a little bit of a test session. Very much on the back foot. Ironically, they are in position to have their second podium of the season here for the 51 with the 99 car. A further 3 laps adrift with their issues and having to go back to the garage here today.
Yes, but crucially, they did get back out on track. They are turning laps and are in a position where they can still score the points. We talked about it earlier, but in a class with just the 4 cars in the pro class, you don't, as long as you make it to halfway and you score those points, you don't lose too much. A bad day isn't a terrible day. It becomes a terrible day if you fail to score at all by not reaching the halfway mark. They've been able to avoid that. That was his lead over Stevens. It's expanded, but not that much. Or not over Stevens. Oh, yes, over Stevens. Boy.
A couple of seconds, but only a second between Stevens and Sedgwick for the pro win. So that's still game on there as you see those gaps there graphically right now. But we're really focused on this amazing battle for the podium positions in Pro-Am. Daskalos is doing a great job here. Comeback has stepped up his game here, moving up to this championship and having come so close to a GT America championship title last year. Was right in the catbird seat and got involved in an incident that was not his problem at Indianapolis and just ruined the whole season, unfortunately.
It was a great season. They won 6 times, 9 podium finishes, but ultimately just 3rd in the championship. On paper, it looks worse than the previous 2 years where he was 2nd, but in many ways, I think that was his and the team's best run, and they were all doing it thinking of Sheldon Miller, who, as we chronicled all last year, the crew chief for CRP, was dealing with a cancer diagnosis. We lost him over the offseason, and this team still very much racing in Sheldon's honor.
It's like Washington's dropped off this pack a little bit. Not sure if he just lost the balance on his race car a little bit. Forced those tires maybe a little bit too early in the stint or something else going on, but he still has a healthy 7-second gap over Rothberg, the championship leader behind him, but right now is all focused on who's going to be P2 or P3 in this class for now.
And yellow was a disaster for a couple of reasons for Turner. They were on the back foot a bit strategically, but also when that air gun failed and everyone was all bunched together, they lost so much track position, even with Rothberg's pace. That's very difficult to come back from.
Yeah, under green, it would not have been as disastrous with the gaps that Robbie had established over a lot of the field, of course.
But they'll know these things happen in pursuit of a championship. They won it a year ago in Pro-Am, and stunning development during the Indy 8 hour. They famously didn't pack any clothing for the banquet. Like, they didn't think they were going. And overcame a massive deficit in points in that final double points paying race, the Indy 8 hour, and ended up winning the championship and had to go and buy some formal attire.
Just to put it in perspective, that pit stop that you're talking about with Foley and Rothberg was 15 seconds slower than the minimum stop time. So I think Foley had 15 seconds on a number of the Pro-Am cars. So that's what you're talking about in terms of the timing of the pit stop and the fact that we were under caution and the whole field compresses and come down together. Great Newell there probing, looking for a way through. Same time, he's got to worry about Jason Bell, who's not afraid to shove it into a hole that may not be all the way open.
Big exit speed there for Newell. Takes the high line there through. Is going to give Jason Bell a run down to the inside. He tucks back in behind the other Aston Martin. Now he looks to the inside. Newell respectively gives him that lane. Really smart driving there by Gray. He knew that he was vulnerable, but just didn't turn into the corner. That's what you have to do.
And you're exactly right. These two have been wheel to wheel a lot over the years in GT4 cars. That relationship, that knowledge carries over. So important to know the tendencies of your opposition, and years of going head-to-head will prepare these guys well. Not so much here, as Coleman has only made sporadic appearances in SRO America over the years. And that was very tight with Gray Newell.
I think Gray just suddenly had to fire it to the apex because Todd was kind of a little lazy in getting to the corner, or just to overbrake the McLaren a little bit and had to wait to be able to turn the wheel. And I think it caught Gray out and he suddenly had to snap it to the inside. There would be my take on it.
Just 3.5 minutes to go. Ellis just came across the finish line. Looking at a couple more laps then to close out the weekend here at Circuit of the Americas. Here comes Newell to the inside. Coleman sees him coming and gives him a wide berth. Gray Newell puts the heart of racing Aston up one more spot. Gets around Coleman, and here comes Jason Bell as Coleman now on the back foot a little bit. Will have to play some more defense. Bell up the inside of the Aston.
Likes to give it up, thought about it, said, you know what, I don't want to risk it. The problem he had was if he fired it down the inside, was Gray Newell going to be clear of the apex at that point?
Right. Similar to the incident between the two Random Vandals cars a little bit earlier in the race. Well, Regulator Racing, they pioneered this strategy last year at Sonoma, where the rules change that came into effect a year ago that allowed teams to nominate driver 1 and driver 2 rather than it being locked in based on driver grading. And they have used it to great success and great effect. Already a race win at Sonoma, and the way that the caution fell today gave them the perfect opportunity for Philip Ellis to go for another win.
Tell you what, Sedgwick has kept Mackay Stevens honest here. Sits there just about a second back. There's a little bit of a concertina effect in terms of where these two cars are performing around this racetrack. Sometimes 1.2 seconds, and it's just under a second, but Mackay Stevens seems to be in management mode here with the white flag waving.
One last lap to go at Circuit of the Americas. Philip Ellis's lead now 2.2 seconds over Mackay Stevens. Then it's Sedgwick, runs third overall, second in pro. Daskalos has been able to fend off the challenge from Blake McDonald. And remember, he had that warning for track limits. He needs to be cognizant of that. Jason Bell as seeing Alam Kodair coming through, but Kodair's a lap down. Need to trouble ourselves with that too much. As Ellis doing what he does best. You put him in one of these Mercedes AMG GT3 Evos and you say, go fast, Phil. And he says, okay, job done.
Yeah, amazing talent. Great story we talked about last year is how he got involved, didn't know anything about motor racing and just sent off a bunch of emails to various race teams. I want to be a race car driver, had no connection with the sport whatsoever. Finally got an invite, did a test with the karting team, showed his speed immediately, and it's a long journey, but the rest is history. Given this opportunity, he is absolutely top shelf.
Racking up big wins all around the world. Daytona, Sebring, Watkins Glen, Spa 24, Petit Le Mans, you name it, he's probably won it. Last year was
ridiculous.
Oh, I mean, that he had a career in a year. Basically last year. You look at all the races that he won at various championships, and
he does it all without a hair out of place.
Yes. I don't know where to go with that one, but you're right. Here he comes. Into turn 19, Philip Ellis, sublime as ever. One corner to go, and Regulator Racing will ride the alternate strategy right back to victory lane. This time in race 2 at Circuit of the Americas. It belongs to Philip Ellis and Jeff Burton. Mackay Stevens and Mikhail Grenier, they pair to win in the pro class ahead of Alex Sedgwick and Jan Halen. And now we wait for the battle for second and third in the Pro-Am class. Daskalos trying to fend off McDonald. McDonald looking to go back-to-back if at all possible, but he cannot. It is Daskalos at the stripe. McDonald will finish in third. Washington in fourth. And now we wait here as Todd Coleman tries to hang on. He's got a lap car between himself and Jason Bell. Oh, this is tight. That was for position potentially. Gray Newell took a look at JF LeBurge but couldn't get the move made. JF finishes in 8th overall. Newell in 9th. Coleman across the line in 10th ahead of Bell. And now we just wait for the Mustang, which should cross the line here shortly to win in AM. Down to Amanda.
And as we make our walk over to the podium, as Jeff Burton is going to go find his driver. That alternate strategy is working yet again. Jeff, you told me in Sonoma that you want to finish first or second in this championship or you wouldn't be here. Talk about this team and what you saw with that effort today.
These guys have busted their butts. It's not just how good Philip and I are doing. We get up front action, but it's the guys behind us. They're the ones making the car. We had a broke car yesterday, or we could have possibly been here again.
Living the dream.
Thanks.
And there it is, the Mustang across the line. That is the first class win for the Ford Mustang in SRO competition around the world. It was an up and down day. Penalty on the start. I think they had a speeding penalty as well, but the opposition had several issues too. And that left Dollarhide Racing in position to snag their first win of 2025. Anthony Lazzaro and Scott Dollarhide brings all that local knowledge to the equation here at Circuit of the Americas. Congratulations to them.
See the cars, maybe wondering why they're running off the racetrack, basically just trying to pick up as much debris and tire marbles as possible. Two reasons for that. Weight of the car will be added to. And also the ride heights. There's some minimum ride height requirements that you have to have. And running these cars around this circuit, a few of the teams have told me this weekend we've got to be right on top of that because you bounce around the suspension so much. Some of those joints can literally just move a little bit and suddenly drop the car down. You may not clear post-race tech.
Just ask Random Vandals. Remember, they lost a pole position and 2 good starts due to being about a millimeter below that minimum ride height in qualifying. Class winners for race 2 at Circuit of the Americas. Mackay Stevens, Mikhail Grenier in the pro class. They finished overall in second behind Ellis and Burton. What a race. All the highs and lows for regulator racing. And as mentioned, Dollarhide Racing puts the Ford Mustang in victory lane for the first time in an SRO sanctioned event. Here are the provisional results. Ended up just 2 seconds separating those two Mercedes at the front overall. Big statement drives once more today from Stevens and Sedgwick.
Very much so. Just great to see those two young drivers get this opportunity at this level and deliver.
CRP Racing played the strategy perfectly. They pitted early, got that driver change done, then they took advantage when the yellow came out, cycled to the front, and Daskalos fended off nearly all comers. Ellis did get by, but there's no shame in that. And despite the fact that car stopped on track in the first stint, they end up second in Pro-Am ahead of DXDT, which continues to thrive anytime we come to Texas.
They really do. Another really solid weekend for them. A win yesterday, podium today. That's going to really boost them in the Pro-Am points.
Disaster in the pits under yellow really cost Turner Motorsport. Pole-sitting car ends up 7th overall. Rothberg and Foley take a little bit of a hit in points, and they have to look at this one as one that maybe got away a bit. Gray Newell showed some fight, had a strong run yesterday along with Darren Turner. Top 5 finish for Heart of Racing in race 1. And then the Archangel Motorsports McLaren is Coleman and Thielitz. Another car that might have had a little bit more if not for that puncture that they had. The contact in the first stint certainly set them back, but Thielitz showed great pace, and there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic about their future. That brings it into a busy day of track activity and a busy
What's your pick
weekend.
down there, Ryan? I see a few tasty machines.
I mean, how do you choose just one?
I know. How about color? This will give me a little guide into your personality here. Which color are you going for? That bright green one at the top?
I think red is the way I'd go. My children are...
What about Audrey? What would she go for?
That's a good question.
She showed up in that green one. I think she'd
you think so?
packing, yeah.
My kids really can't stand the fact I don't have a favorite color. They can't get to the bottom of how this could possibly be.
How about an egg color?
No, thank you.
Saucy color?
Nope.
No.
That is decidedly anti-vision, Cal. But again, what eye candy. And it's not just the cars on the track. It brings out the best in the car corrals as well. And there is an emerging car and sports car culture, I think, here in Austin, Texas. And this track has a big part to play in all of that.
Yeah, and I think the SRO Group have done a great job of embracing this racetrack. It's a lot of the management live here locally, so they really work hard to bring on an event like we're seeing here this weekend. Some spectacular racing across all of the classes and championships. It's a fun one.
It is. That's Alex Sedgwick. Feels like a win is in the cards at some point this year. They've been so close. Really, you go back to that second race at Sonoma where Sedgwick was passed very late in the going after mounting a stout rear guard action for the bulk of his stint. Feels like they're on the precipice of something. No need to wait, though, for something special here for Regulator Racing. What a start to the season.
Yeah, 2 wins. This one was, I don't know what to say. I mean, it was certainly eventful, and it came back their way. So hats off to adjust the little bobble that they had, the mistake they made. They corrected it and made the right choice.
Yeah, credit to the team for adapting on the fly and correcting that situation, taking advantage of the fact that the yellow came and they could do it without losing any track position. Actually, they gained track position, oddly enough, by correcting that miscue, and it results in another win. You know, you think about they rolled the dice at Sonoma when they tried to double stint tires. If they had played that slightly more conventionally, that's probably a pretty strong result. I mean, there's no reason they can't fight for a top 3 spot, maybe even a championship at the end of this season, the way this is playing out. Let's hear from our race winners now. Amanda is in victory lane.
And that Pirelli #1 hat is on the head of Philip Ellis. And Ryan and Calvin were talking about your resume last season and how you had a career in a year. But I imagine it has to be just as satisfying watching and being a driver coach for a co-driver that is just coming to life. What does that mean to your career as well?
It's just amazing, you know, especially this year. The field is much bigger and more competitive than last year, so it's just harder for us as well. You can be too. And no, this guy did an amazing job today. It's a little bit like Sonoma Race 2 or Barber last year, so really incredible performance by Jeff, and it made it a little bit easier for me, of course, at the end. And then we were lucky with the full course yellow because we actually messed up the pit stop, gambled a little bit too much, and then came back to us. So more lucky than anything.
What's the biggest influence Philip Ellis has had on you?
Think about it. It's just not going as hard as you can in every turn. There's finesse into this that I didn't even realize, you know, years ago doing this. And he brings all that out of you. I mean, if you watch him on film, he's relaxed. It's like he's watching a Sunday movie. It's just easy. And if you can be that way, quit sweating, he says.
Congratulations to Regulator Racing. I'm going to head over to our pairing on the top step in class. Mackay Stevens, you were defending Philip Ellis for a good time there. What was going through your mind with that moment?
What a wonderful way to learn. You know, the between himself and Mick, it's just tremendous individuals behind the wheel, and I'm just in a fortunate place to be able to try and soak in that knowledge as quickly as possible.
There are formidable teams in this pro class that it could come down to the Indy 8-hour. What makes you guys stand on top?
Yeah, it's not going to be easy. It's only 4 cars, so it's difficult to score strong points. Both teams are very good. I mean, RS1 is good, Random Vandals. So I think consistency, try to win as many races as possible because that's where we get the biggest gap for points, because between second and fourth is not a big margin. So we have to keep scoring, not crashing, and yeah, we'll see at the end of the season.
Well, it was the addition of the Ford Mustang on the track this season inside the GT World Challenge America, and boy, was it an initiative by this guy. We did the track walk with you with our very own Calvin Fish to kick off this weekend. your experience mattered here, Koda. Why is that?
Well, I mean, I get very fortunate. I'm able to get a lot of track time here, and Anthony did a great job as well. And I can't say enough about the team. They were here till 1 o'clock in the morning fixing the car from yesterday, and yeah, can't ask for anything better.
Anthony, you told me in Sonoma that you are 61 years old, turning 62 this year, and that you have a heartbeat again. How fast is it beating now?
There's no way I told you that. I'm not that old. Come on, I'm a grandfather. No, I did tell you that. My heart is beating again. Plus, I need a new Pirelli hat. It's been a long time. So, congratulations to Oz Negri and Jay Schneiderman, known those guys for years. But Dolomite guys, Bill, for giving me the opportunity. It was 1998 last time I raced for this man, and he's put me in some really badass cars over the years, and love it. The crew did a great job getting it back together after that little turn one deal yesterday. Didn't even get past the apex. Terrible.
Well, there is a big group of fans here to welcome these guys for the podium. I do want to give it up to the runner-up in Pro-Am, to Isaac Sherman and Jason Dasklos. That team was here to welcome them and was on the wall celebrating as well in just their 4th race together, a venture that started 3 weeks before the season on the podium.
It's a good point, Amanda. Amazing story there. Well, this race started with the Turner BMW on pole, with Robbie Foley controlling the beginning of the race, but it was a pair of BMW's teammates colliding. Huge implications for the Pro Class Championship. Scott Dolomite recovered from a drive-through penalty to take the lead in the AM Class. Mustang on Ferrari. Tom Sargent didn't get the best of starts, but was able to recover, knifed his way back up through the field. Was getting around Mikhail Grenier to get into 2nd overall. Grenier, though, showed really good pace, especially in the second half of his stint as he kept the top 2 honest. Battle in Pro-Am, though, for the lead was a fierce one between Foley and Sargent. However, it all changed with a yellow flag right in the middle of the race. It totally reshuffled the deck. And at the end of it, it was a pair of Mercedes leading the way. 2 different classes, though. The 34 from JMF, that's a Pro Class car, overtaken after a long fight, and a fair one, with Philip Ellis for Regulator Racing. It took a couple of corners to solidify the pass, but ultimately Philip Ellis did prevail in that internecine duel between the Mercedes teams and sprinted away for yet another win, already the 2nd on the season for Regulator Racing's Philip Ellis and Jeff Burton. Another win as well for JMF Motorsports. They were 1.7 seconds away from sweeping the weekend here at Circuit of the Americas. They'll settle for a 1st and a 2nd. And how about Dolomite Racing? 1st win for the Mustang in SRO America. Celebrations already underway. What a pairing that has proven to be between Burton and Ellis. Wow, wow, wow. That was quite a wild ride, really, from the drop of the green flag. We had fireworks aplenty. You guys, in pre-race, Calvin, you and Amanda were stressing the importance of perfect execution.
What do we know?
I think only one car did, quite possibly. That was the 34. It ends up 2nd overall, but most importantly, a winner in class.
Yeah, a yellow, the timing of a yellow can always turn things upside down, so it certainly gave some great opportunity to teams that had made a little mistake, but you got to be on top of your game, and Regulator Racing adjusted. They got lucky, in Philip Ellis's words, to the timing of that and the ability to come down the pit lane. It could have been fun to see Ellis come down pit lane, get that time off the board, and then go on the attack. I think it would have been a lot harder charge, and I'm not sure he'd have got the win, but maybe got to a podium spot. But some great performances, Amanda alluded to. CRP, Daskalos, and Sherman, just fantastic stuff. Blake McDonald, another great day. Another podium for he and Matt Bell. They're a definite factor in this championship. And Rothberg and Foley, yes, a top 5, but from the pole and leading, coming into the pit stop, that's a major, major problem for that team to have that issue on pit lane. Good recovery by Justin, but top 5 is not what they were thinking at the start of the day.
Another tough pill to swallow for Oberlin and Choxy. And all the more painful, perhaps, because not only was it 2 teammates making contact. Remember yesterday, Oberlin gave way to the team car to avoid that kind of situation. So he kind of ends up on the back foot in both of those interactions.
Yeah, I think Connor would like a do-over on that. It was a big commitment. He was so focused on the battle that he was in. But we said at the top, you've got to think big picture. You've got to get to that 50% mark. Fortunately, they were able to fix the car. If they hadn't, it could have been a huge day, a game changer in this championship.
Danny Koch, JMF Motorsports CEO.
The inimitable DJ Clark, master of ceremonies for the podium celebrations here at Circuit of the Americas. Recognizing not just the drivers, but also the winning team, with a representative of the team standing between Mackay Stevens on the left, Mikhail Grenier on the right.
All right, Danny, we'll get you out of there. Also, everybody,
It's a fun championship. A lot more meat on the bone, as Philip Ellis said this year. A lot more competition. Every win, every podium is going to be harder fought for sure.
And the stakes then are that much more crucial, especially in the Pro-Am class. If you finish out of the top 10, you don't score anything. You can't take points for granted.
That's for sure. And we head from this racetrack to a very different look. Historic Sebring International Raceway in 3 weeks' time. It's all about respect the bumps, respect the heat as well. It is going to be fire there in May at Sebring International Raceway in the heart of Florida.
Yeah, that is true. Excited to think Philip Ellis is to get back to Sebring. Had some success there earlier this year. Won a little race called the Sebring 12-hour.
Right.
Second on the bounce, actually, having gone back-to-back now in that historic event. That might be a frightening thought for the rest of this field. But love going to Sebring. There's no place like it anywhere in the world. You know, every once in a while, you'll see a comment, well, this place looks really bumpy. Why don't they repave it? No, you must be new here. Leave it just the way it is. It's the bumps that make Sebring the challenge that it is. This place is smooth, relatively, and flowing, undulating with that elevation change. Sebring's almost a polar opposite.
Yeah, no Botox needed. Leave the wrinkles alone, right?
I like it. Sounds like the right approach to me. And from there, championship heads to VIR. I think we've talked in the past that maybe if you made Circuit of the Americas back in the 50s or 60s, it would look a lot like VIR. Lots of elevation change, high speed, high commitment. But because it was made in the 50s, there's none of that track limit stuff we were talking about today.
No, it is paradise. It's such a magical circuit, very flowing, and just continues to improve every single year we go back. Connie Nyholm and the whole group there just do a fantastic job of making the place better for the fans, better for the racers, and it's always a treat to be back on site.
Two really good stories here outside of the top step. Amanda did a great job chronicling Isaac Sherman, Jason Daskalos. They put a test together about 3 weeks before the start of the season and kind of on a whim put this program together. Nick Short saying he had to dust off a bunch of old pit equipment for refueling purposes that they hadn't used in a few years. And Sherman, who had no GT3 experience, he only has 1 year of GT experience, full stop, finds himself runner-up here in the Pro-Am class.
That's a great podium. I mean, I know that Daskalos is, and obviously Sherman for that matter, would have 19 victories last year between them, but I would say that this podium is maybe even sweeter than any of those.
Definitely. And then the DXDT story as well. We know what the team's capable of. That's been on display for a year plus. But this is a new driver pairing. Like, McDonald doesn't bring a massive CV into this. Matt Bell really needs no introduction. But the way that the team has been able to keep operating at the high level that they established a year ago is very encouraging.
Yeah, they really just were able to make those Corvettes tick immediately, and the reliability has been there, the execution has been there, and this is going to be a great season. So many strong entries in Pro-Am, and I think that's why Foley and Rothberg got pretty disappointed. They let people back in the game here today a little bit.
Philip Ellis has some experience with this. He disappeared into the back before anyone could spray the champagne. Jeff just got him. But, yeah, Philip got to the back there quickly to stay out of the firing line. He's had plenty of practice, as we talked about over the past couple of seasons. great to see this team executing at such a high level. They've embraced this unconventional approach to how they start and finish these races and saw it as an opportunity. So far, others have tried it from time to time, but no one else has been able to capitalize the way they have.
No, it can work. I think a yellow certainly can help in a big, big way, of course. It can hurt you if it happens on the wrong day, but in day two, yellow will certainly help that cause and put you right in the pound seats, as I call it, in terms of an opportunity to go for the win.
One more podium to recognize. That's the AM class.
All right, folks, we're going to move things on into your AM
Change from Sonoma to this event here at Circuit of the Americas with the Dolomite team. They ran as a Pro-Am entry in the season opener, reclassified to Am for this one. That's where they intended to run, actually, all season, but thought they'd test the waters in Pro-Am in the season opener. But now that means that the execution needs to be strong for both of these crews, and we saw them split the weekend here, which is good to see.
Yeah, and I got a note from Amanda post-race that Jay Schreiben said his leg was really giving him some grief. He had that incident at Sonoma late in the going where he kind of missed the brake pedal and then went back for it and hit both pedals at once and had the moment down in the hip in turn. And it's created a little bit of an issue with his leg, so he's having to drive in a compromised way. He can't really be totally committed, and he's just trying to keep it safe, in his words.
And of course, a duo on the left, Dolomite Racing, front and center, celebrating their first win of 2025. And you heard Anthony Lazzaro mention the fact he drove for Scott's dad, Bill.
There he is. There's Bill.
Back in the late 90s, including some runs in the Ferrari 333 SP, which, for my money, is one of the coolest looking and sounding prototypes certainly in my lifetime.
Another cool story having that chat with Scott the other night when we walked around the track is guy who used to sweep the floors in those Ferrari 333 days is now the engineer on this squad. So he went to engineering school and come full circle.
It is a really cool story. Well, that's a wrap for us from Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. Fun weekend across the board. Up next, a trip to Central Florida and Sebring International Raceway.